Do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let the roll call show that all the everybody is present. We do have a quorum. Kind of approval, motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda for today.
Been moved by Councilman Zent that we approve the agenda today. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilwoman Hartke. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, the same. Passed all in the affirmative. Do we have any communications from citizens? Yes, if you're ready.
All right, well, I just want to know what the hell's going on.
Just introduce yourself, Dwayne.
Oh,
please.
well, I'm Dwayne Raymond. I came over here to see what's going on with the land.
We're waiting for the survey on it.
Yeah, how's that going to take place?
Pardon?
When's that going to take place?
As soon as, I hope in the very near future, our surveyor's mother has been very ill and he sort of got pulled away for a couple of weeks. So that's where we're at on that. I did miss a call from him today. I tried to call him back, see where he's at, but I wasn't able to get in touch.
Okay.
But that was our conversation last week. I was in Laramie all week. But I was expecting to have something from him this week. In my last conversation with him the week before, but his 94-year-old mother's been up in Billings in the hospital and been having health issues.
Okay. Well, I was just under the impression that when we had the last meeting, that was when it was going to get done, and then
Yeah,
so on and so forth.
We're waiting on, we basically the conversation, do we need to get somebody else has already taken place? But I know it's supposed to be near completion, and I'll try to touch base with again. Like I said, I did miss a call from him today. I was in a meeting when he called, and when I got done with that meeting, a half hour later, he was already out and about. And I left a message for him to return my call, and that never happened today. So, but that was the issue. Pardon?
I have a question on it. He asked for 7 acres in the beginning. Now we're down to 5 something.
Well, the 7 acres was an approximation.
well, I never heard that yet. That's a new one
No,
on
that
me.
was Approximation, but Dwayne and I have walked where we agreed upon where the boundaries would be, and that's a little over 5 acres. And I had the surveyor go out there and survey as Dwayne and I agreed upon the land he requested. And that comes out with the surveyors, that's about a little over 5 acres.
Okay. And then, all right.
Yeah, you and I walked.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we talked about where you wanted your property line, correct?
Yep.
And so.
And
that
then
was-
you stated to me that it was because the city needed an easement there for signage.
Well, that's part of that upper end there. I think the city should save that, yes.
How much do you need for signage?
We got more than signage. We also wear waters. We have a water manifold and everything else there. I went out there with Bud and we went over that land and what we need to save there and we've done that.
But is that the corner where Dwayne wanted to be able to?
No.
So then where do we put the easement in for me to be able to get into the property?
You're gonna be coming in on that road just as we are now. As you are now, just that road that comes right down through there. That's nothing's changed.
And I'll have an easement through there and all that stuff if you guys own the property?
Yes. Or we done that may even end up being a street, I would imagine. But, nope. There's nothing changed over what you and I went out and walked and talked about.
All right.
I got a question. If we're, I'm kind of lost on signage. What do we mean? on that?
If we, that leaves us room, we're developing a business park down there also.
Yeah.
If we want to have places for signs
Mhm.
and stuff like that, that would be good to save some of that property for that. We can put signs. We also have a water line there. We have a,
That's the one he's tying into, right? The water line?
yes,
No.
but we also, that line also ties in, there's a water line that goes.
Okay, so
underneath
there's
the highway.
some confusion there. The water line main, I'm gonna get and tie into, yes, that's what you're saying.
Yes,
But the water hookup that actually comes out of it goes under the street to the foundation across the road.
yeah, they're.
So I don't get to use that no more. I gotta pay for a tap now because I did, but that, according to Joel, was never in the deal in the first place because that water line went across the road to that
That's
other
a private-
property.
That's a private line that goes underneath the highway over under the highway.
Going
across
to
over to
Jake's?
Jake Stetler's property, correct.
What size line is it? What size water line is it that goes across?
It's either a 1 or a 2 inch.
Huh.
Might only be. a
How
1
big do
inch.
they have to be before you can tie in?
I think 2 inches.
Yeah, but
minimum.
his building is nowhere near that.
I mean, we'd rather just go into the main anyway, but when
Right,
we first looked at it, and I seen the riser on the property, I wasn't aware that, that's where it had
guess I
went.
that right, we're talking about the same.
Yeah,
size. You're
yep.
clear on that.
Yes, sir. We were talking about the same thing.
Because there's a blow down line that's up above, down below there too.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I guess I'm confused because when we talked, I thought he was going from the corner down. You guys just changed that or how'd that work?
Joel felt when we walked out there and looked at it that he needed 300 feet of that or whatever. And so I told him, I said, well, then fine, right here. And that's when we talked about, that's why I said I didn't understand why I couldn't just buy the land and then lease it back, give you an easement back for signage with the stipulation of how big the signs and stuff will be.
I don't
Because if
know.
I'm building a bar and grill there and I put a sign up, I don't want a bunch of other signs there block my stuff out. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. How much land are we talking, Joel, for signage?
I don't know, there may be near 300 foot there. But that allows that we keep that water line
Mhm.
and everything there. That allows us to keep that private line that goes across the highway. That allows us to keep that. That also allows us for signage if we have 3 or 4 businesses down below. That also allows us that to put signage if we need that there.
Yeah, because I mean, the whole commercial aspect. of it,
And the building where he's putting his building is not up. Not where Dwayne showed me where he wants to put the building.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
whatever
up.
else I'm doing on that property from there up is, you see what I'm saying? So I got some other ideas for the rest of that. That's what I'm saying. That's why, there could be other storefronts in there by the time we're done.
Pardon?
There could be other storefronts in there by the time we're done.
I'm not even sure how the whole aspect of commercial works. Can you help clarify?
Exactly. What's the question?
Yeah, basically, the whole aspect of selling commercial wise, I mean, with it being, town, for economic growth and everything.
Well, okay, so
Dude, I'm kind of lost right now.
okay, so the economic growth, as I stated before, it comes down to the plan and you as council accepting the plan. And then voting on it, which I believe you did, under the understanding of what that agreement was.
Mhm.
So that's, and that's the way it works. I mean, someone comes in with a plan and a bid. which this gentleman did. And it doesn't matter if someone, if you guys believe the land is, someone believes the land is valued at 500,000, they come in with a bid of 10,000 and say, well, we're also gonna put in this amount, you agree to that.
Mhm.
For X amount of acres.
Mhm.
So at that point, that agreement's done for whatever the agreement was when you voted on it.
Mhm.
Now, my question is, have we changed that agreement by changing, because I was with Tammy saying, originally I heard 7 acres, now it's smaller than that, now we're putting in an easement. Has that changed the agreement?
That, I would believe that would be a material change of the agreement.
Therefore, does the governing body have to revote a second time, and say, we agree with this change?
I would believe so, yeah. And
Okay.
you would also have the option of walking out at that point because you made a material, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand that these are material, I mean, a set amount of acres for a dollar amount that he's gonna pay for this is what is voted.
Yes.
Okay, and so if you change any amount of the dollar or the acreage, that's a material change of the contract. So that's where that's at.
Did I ever state to you that I would, that corner, didn't I state from day one, we wanted to save some of that up there from day one?
Yeah, that is what you said. Yep.
Okay.
But we're not,
So I've
but when we
never-
came in here and
never-
voted on it and
so
stuff,
I've
it was
I've
all the way
never
to the
var-
corner.
I've never varied from our statement. The approximation on the acreage was something that was done off of Google map on approximation. So we went out and you agreed, to, if I'm not right, this is where we put,
Yeah, that was on
Here.
that was on what you felt you needed all that. So I said, yep, then put it right here. That was just easy. I just figured all this will speed it up and right now it hasn't. So I'm just like,
now we're waiting
okay.
on- We're waiting on the surveyor.
But if that corner.
Well, I'm here to help, you
if
know?
it's not that, allow that corner in there, you're not gonna let another business come in there.
No, we're not allowing another business come in. The city is gonna retain ownership of that.
But
And we got.
Till
a
what
water
date?
line. We have a water line there. Our Buddy wants to preserve that. And I walked out there with Buddy, and what does he want to preserve and where we need to do, where we have our water lines coming through there, where we have this other line that branches off that.
I think something else that's kind of being. I felt like the original business plan was I'm gonna put in a bar and grill. But now we're hearing we might do additional commercial development over there on the acreage that you'd like. to
Well, because
do.
we're allowed to have expansion, right? That was the whole idea of getting that much was because we'd have room for expansion for other things. And then we say that in here?
Yes, but I think that the expansion is relative to what? As far as. I
Well, we
mean,
want to see the town grow, right? So my idea was to just put in, more places for businesses to be. And I'll still retain the land and put in the buildings on the lots. And then if people want to rent them to put businesses in.
That's what I was wondering, if what you'd asked, if you have a similar, almost like, you'd asked, is the town gonna put in commercial development over there? We're saying no. We're leaving that to you as an option to put in commercial development over there. It's almost seems like kind of where we start in the very beginning of this is branching out. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, but, if I recall from the meeting, he was talking about, expanding with, possible ideas. But he talked, even splash park, something.
Well, because that's why we were going to have 7 acres. So three and a half of it was going to be for the bar and grill and all the other stuff we're putting in it. But then we're left with 4 acres.
Mhm.
So then when you want to develop something, then we'd put in what, storefront, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's what we're talking about over here. That's what we need over here, right? Isn't that what we're saying? I mean, short of saying, well, okay, I'm gonna go get a developer and some investors and build it.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So, and I'd hate to tell you, but I got a couple guys that are our investors that I've been talking to about some money over here. So it's not like, you know what I mean?
Mhm. No,
That's how,
I wanna
that's how
see-
you, I mean, you know,
I want to see the growth. I could tell you're irritated, obviously. I'm just trying to come to the bottom of it.
I'm not really irritated. I just, I just want to, you know, I guess, I'm a guy who gets stuff done, you know, and I just want to know what's going on. And I live a long ways away from here, you know, shit, I live up there on the other side of the valley, and I've been all over Colorado down here working and all that. So in 3 weeks that I thought that we were getting the legal description done and all this stuff done, you know, I guess things haven't really happened. And so I guess I'm here to ask what has happened. And now I guess according to Joel, we really don't, we're still waiting on a surveyor.
But even after the survey is done, this still has to. I would say
Advertise-
you're several months
Advertise
out.
3 times.
Oh, so yeah, so I wasn't under that
No, so
impression.
that was discussed in the meeting as far as you'll have,
3 times.
so it's 3 times of advertising. It has to have the appraisal done on it. I mean, there will be multiple steps as
Sure.
far as. you'll
And
be-
we've reached out for an appraisal to get done also. It's a tight schedule. I hope to have an appraisal in soon, but we haven't. It's not easy to get on there. Appraisal's not done yet.
Sure.
How long is the process? I mean,
Got to advertise it 3 times.
I mean lengthwise.
3 weeks.
It's 3 weeks, not 3 months.
Yes.
After everything is in there.
After we get a legal description and the appraiser.
And appraisal. We got to have the appraisal, or we can't advertise.
So you
We need
guys
to
got it marked where that you said that you wanted it?
Yeah, Joe, there was already a flag in the fence. That's where we went off
Right,
of.
and that's where the surveyors went off of. Like I said, we went and agreed, and we went west even a little further than what you requested.
Yep.
to make
And then I
sure
said,
that-
well,
make
then if
sure
you're gonna
was
take that
covered,
much, then I'd
rather
like to have it at least down here.
Have air on the long
You know?
And
way.
you're okay with that?
Yeah, as long as my big deal was the farther down you push it, with the YDOT deal and coming off the highway at 70 mile an hour.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna build that end up and there can't be no access, because I haven't checked it, but you gotta have two ways in and out of something. Right? So you gotta have just in case something bad happens, right? So I need,
Do we have that from YDOT?
That's not up to us.
But I mean,
See, and
that seems,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm saying. So
up-
how,
and
and
if
without a
you-
legal description and all that, I can't even approach YDOT to get it, So we
but
gotta,
it's just same as what we just are recently selling the property that was across the highway.
that was for residential development, yeah.
But same thing, they had to secure, make sure that they had access.
So
and there's already a turnout there. So that was pretty much a given, right?
Well, I thought it was, but.
Yeah,
the
I
buyer
mean, there ain't no
went-
turnout to mine, you know
the
what I'm saying?
buyer-
Like,
the buyer went through all of that. The turnout's in the city's name.
So is that proper, is the property he's interested, is it eligible for a YDOT
I
turnout?
do not know.
So if it's not, is that a deal breaker?
Well, if we don't
Well,
give
it's
an
up to the
easement, I bet it
buyer.
would.
well, we'd have to figure out two ways in and out. That's what I was trying to explain to whoever I was on. But the way that ditch is down there, that, because the water line's up in the road and then you would drop way down into that and then you come up, you see what I'm saying? So you got to have an in and an out, 4-wheel drive truck and stuff, or a shitload of dirt and a dozer and, you know what I mean? So that just makes the cost go up.
But I think part of that comes back to the YDOT side as far as. I think you've had more involvement with YDOT, things like crosswalks or stoplights.
I mean, I know YDOT pitched a fit about this. We tried to replace the stairs just in front of the barn because it's in YDOT's easement. That's why they've never been fixed. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's hard to get YDOT to,
Seems like an important piece of the puzzle.
But that would be up to Dwayne. He's got wide, if need to talk to YDOT
I'll call Robert Schottenham.
and see if they're not gonna allow. You never, I guess, explained to me that you thought you.
Well, we talked about doing that so we could turn off the highway, but then you're gonna need a second access out of there. In and out. However you do it, whether we come back onto the road twice or go in it and back out onto your guys' road on the water line.
The guy that you just mentioned, where is he based out of?
Robert Scheidemann, he's the engineer up at YDOT here in Fremont County. Right
Do you
up
know
there.
Chad? I don't know his last name. He's the superintendent right here. Schaefer.
Oh, yeah.
I have his number. It's his cell phone. I can give that to you. As far as someone who drives here every single day, they can say.
Well, I'll bet, because I'll bet he's his boss. I'll bet Robert's his boss. Like I say, he's the engineer for YDOT. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be the guy that says so. But I'll call him. I'll just ask him what he's got to say about it. And if he says absolutely they won't do it, then I'll be back in for the next meeting.
Well, yeah, and that's what I mean. That's kind of, I understand it's on your
I mean, yeah,
behalf, but
well,
we get
that's, I
everything
guess
rolling
that's how it
going.
has to go. I guess that's how it is. Maybe by then the survey will be done, whatever, we'll know some more stuff.
Yeah, and appraisal, we gotta have both. We got it.
Where are we
gotta
sitting
have
on that?
Appraisal, hopefully the guy is supposed to be getting at it, maybe next week. Everybody was 30 days out or more on appraisals.
Sure.
I mean, it was a heck of a time, and actually find someone that would appraise that property. Is it commercial? Is it not? And it was, everything's so out that we finally got someone to agree to appraise it.
So did we handle everything right then? Are we okay?
Yeah, I mean, you're still within the statute. Again, I think the fact that something's changed here, that's pretty material. in my mind. So you guys still have to agree on both sides that you're okay with the change and walking it, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you walked it and changed it after the vote.
That's right.
So that's where the issue comes. So if you know exactly where the flags are at, you're happy with that. then
I'll be
you need to
fine
get on
with it.
The acreage was.
As long as we ain't Taco John's next door, we're good.
Until we surveyed it.
Okay,
The acreage was always approximate until we surveyed it.
yeah, I think that's basically then, I mean, as long as it's on the record that he's agreed to it. Sounds
Mhm.
good.
All right.
Yeah, we're still following along, everything, as long as you get it surveyed and you have, and appraisal, and advertise that in the paper. And then you'll have to have a final vote on that. Right, because, that's when
Right,
the citizens get.
they would get a chance to
before that
comment on it, correct.
And tell you guys whether they like it or not, or whatnot.
Because it belongs to people's money, people's property. And that's why we go through the meetings and gives everybody a chance to review it. To make sure they don't find out you're my third cousin, we cut you a good deal or.
Small
But anyway, that's protect the public. That's why we go through this. But we have to have the appraisal. We have to have the survey.
All right. All right.
Is that good? I mean, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fine with me. I guess, I mean, as long as we all agree, that's how it is.
Yeah,
And I'll get a
I
hold of the
couldn't-
engineer up there at YDOT. And then, like I said, if that's a no deal, I'll get a hold of him
sure.
and then I'll come to the next meeting. I'll see you. So when's the next meeting?
2 weeks.
28th June.
How far down from that the other, have you picked out where you wanted, 'cause I don't remember you showing me where you wanted to put a access from the highway.
I thought we were gonna put it in before, because you want to put it in before it speeds up to 70 mile an hour. If they don't, I mean, you're gonna have a lot of ass enders out there. You might as well put in a hospital.
I don't know. I don't know if they'll put one in
You
that
know?
close.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know if they'll allow to put one in that. close.
And then like, when you drive
That
down
was
that
my-
ditch, when you drive down that ditch, there's a big old pile of sandstone right in the ditch. So you pretty much only set to the one spot. You see what I'm saying? Because there's sandstone in other spots. Just doze that out of the way and.
Well, if you got some thoughts, I'm willing to go out.
Well,
with you
like I
again.
said, what I'll do is I'll meet with Robert Shodman. I'll have him meet me over here. We'll take a look at it and I'll ask him what he can do there. If he can't do nothing, then we're just gonna have to reapproach it in a different angle to it.
Sure.
I mean,
But yeah, I'm afraid they won't allow another one that close, from my understanding of YDOT. So.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna let you, they're speeding up. That's what I was saying. They're speeding up. I don't think they're gonna let you stop. I mean,
So we'd have to work out another.
yeah, so we're gonna have to be able to bring it in and come around or whatever there, come out. I can show you. That, wherever you put a driveway takes up more building room.
Mhm. We'll find out and
So, and then, that it, if it ain't gonna be 7 acres anymore, it's down to 5. Now we're less that too.
Well, no, but it's where we went and agreed to when we walked it. That's just whatever
Sure.
that acre, it could have been 8 acres, didn't make any difference to me. But it's
Well, I
where
bet
we
it ain't.
walked, where we walked,
I'll bet it
where
ain't.
we walked out and you agreed.
Sure, well, I
we
bet it
agreed
ain't.
on that would be fine.
All right.
And that was, the 7 acres was just a guesstimation.
Well, when we first plotted it out, it was from the corner all the way down, it was 7.2.
That was before that was,
Sure.
you looked at that that's where you talked to me, right?
Right. Yep.
And that's.
And
before
we
I
walked
talked to
out there
Buddy.
and then
Buddy
you wanted
wants
to keep the
say-
corner
Our
for
director of
signage.
Public Works wants to say.
and that much room. I don't
corner.
understand, but
Except I went out there with the director of Public Works and he kind of walked out where he wanted to save. And that was one of the driving forces on where we were at. Because we went out there and
so then
walked.
Buddy's the one that wanted to keep that.
Yes,
All right.
him and I walked out there and we walked that and asked him how much of that he wants saved. We were going to save some for signs. What do we need? What do you need to protect our water line and what we're doing? And that's pretty much in that area where we agreed. And when we walked up and then we picked that flag there, that was
Yep.
then that's a
Mhm.
highway marker. They had recently surveyed that in. And so that was an easy mark on that end, so I wouldn't miss that. And we decided you want to go down and sort of up the hill a
Mhm.
little bit on the other side.
Yep.
And we did that
Yep.
and went about an extra 25 foot, I think, beyond that. And when you survey that in, that comes to a little over 5 acres, 5.5 acres, whatever it was. That's how that acreage that was on.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what drove that.
All right. Well, I ain't disagreeing on any of that. We
Yeah,
went
yeah,
out there and walked it off and all that.
Okay,
All I'm saying is when we started, it was this. Now we're down to that. That's all I'm saying.
well, it's.
And when you got to have
We
2
didn't have it
accesses
we didn't
in
have it
and
laid-
things
we
like
didn't-
that,
we didn't
then
have it
you're
laid
taking
out.
up building room and all kinds of different things with, putting in roads and pavement and, parking and, you know what I'm saying? So, especially if I can't get an access off of the road out front. So. But I'll talk to YDOT. We'll see what they say.
and
Alright.
then obviously, come back. 'Cause, I mean,
Oh, no, I'll be back.
We want to see this go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'll be back and I'll talk to you. And like I said, I'll get a hold of Robert and if he says that we can totally do it, if he'll, let's see.
You
All right.
bet.
Thanks.
Very
Thanks,
good.
Dwayne.
Any more communications from citizens? None being consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Approval of the minutes, May 24th, 2022 and June 1st, 2022 special meeting. Approval of the bills from May 25th, 2022 to June 14th, 2022.
I move we approve the minutes for May 24th and June 1st.
I'll second.
Been moved by Councilman Zant, second by Councilman Weaver, that we approve the minutes. May 24th, 2022 and June 1st, 2022. Special meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Have a motion to approve the bills, May 25th, 2022 to June 14th, 2022.
I move we approve the bills for May 25th through June 14th.
Been moved by Councilman Zant. Can I have a second?
Second.
Been second by Councilwoman Hartke. Discussion.
Well, I see we have Apple Valley Tree and Lawn Care twice, but I've still noticed we're getting some dead trees. Are they still under warranty in the Plaza Park, or is that town's responsibility?
So we plucked the 2 dead ones.
Are they being replaced?
I've talked to the Ryan Donahue's father that was co-owner. He was supposed to replace them. And I have not heard back yet, but he is responsible to replace them or reimburse us for the cost of those 2 trees.
There's other trees at senior center or senior housing that are dead as well.
So we haven't done those ones yet.
Okay,
That's the next one we need to do in this next year.
Okay. Is there any other possibility other than pine trees, because they just don't live in the soil?
Buddy and I were looking at some apple trees, the non-fruit bearing apple trees that seem to do pretty well here. However, the ones that were available at Sutherland's were in
Outrageous.
not very good health.
About that big. So I,
So, and we also want to, there's another group that out of Riverton that did donate 1 tree to us, the Rotary Club that donated the 1 tree. And so we're going to see about trying to get some more trees from them if they'll help donate trees as well. So we are looking into trying to find some mature trees, not mature, but adolescent trees that won't get eaten by antelope.
the guy who Rick, who transplanted those trees, he's got trees at his facility in Pavilion. He's $500 a unit. They're gonna be 13 years old.
Oh, what kind of trees?
Tall ones. Ones that are grown. I don't remember what their names are.
You got that information? I'll get it from you.
I have his phone number. But
Okay.
yeah, he will plant. He will start planting again towards the end of summertime. His have all got leaves on them. I looked at him earlier last week. He doesn't like to move them when they got leaves because they'll blow off. But last year they were 400. This year he's at 500 because the fuel increased, but they are growing at his nursery out there, and they're that big around.
That's be nice to get some trees and leaves around here.
Yeah, I mean, our soil just so alkaline, it just don't grow.
And he could, I'll give you, he would tell you the yea or the nay as far as someone who's familiar with the soil. He could give you a good insight as far as this will work, this won't work. We've done some other projects with him.
I'll get that from you with Buddy and come back and see what we can present.
I have 10 trees under warranty as well.
Hmm.
In case you make any progress.
Any other discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Passed on the affirmative. Fiscal year 2023 budget reading. We have an amendment to the. I have a motion to approve the budget, second reading.
I'll make the motion.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Been moved by Councilman Weaver, seconded by Councilman that we approve the fiscal 2023 second reading of the budget. Discussion.
I have one amendment to present on the budget. Page 2. On the revenue. The Wyoming Business Council feasibility study, which Ben's here for today, that had been added to the budget for revenue because I wasn't sure if we were going to receive the reimbursement this budget year, next budget year. Now that I know that it'll be next budget year, that's being added to revenue. So we will receive it in next budget year for the reimbursement. That's what that 24,000 is.
That's from the state.
Yeah, that's the feasibility study for that Ben's gonna present later on. It's just the timing of it, we weren't sure which budget year we were gonna receive the revenue, so we will receive them next year. So this is just adding that into the revenue side of the budget.
Because we pay for it, the town pays for it, and then the state reimburses.
Correct.
So you don't want to wait till next year to get.
Your starts, I guess.
Hold off on getting paid. It's easier for us. And the second revenue item is the DEQ VRP. That was the asbestos removal from the DEQ that we did with the Brownfield 2 sites. It was budgeted as 0 because we've already completed that grant and already been reimbursed. The $20,000 is a sister grant that they gave us, 100% grant to basically redo, not redo, but similar to what Ben did with the feasibility study of the hotel. Since they want to see sites that have been remediated for asbestos be developed into something, they give a micro grant, $20,000 to study the best fit of what the town decides, and they do the study. And this would be $20,000 for the former Lip Ripper site.
Just that site.
Well, we could do more, but 20,000.
We have the option.
Yeah, the
Doesn't
town,
go very far,
ultimately
but
the
you
town
can
will
either
decide what they want to do. But it's one or the other, either the Shoshoni Hotel.
Oh, we choose one, because
I
of
don't,
the value.
yeah, it's a micro grant, so it's not gonna be all encompassing, so it's gonna have to be focused on one, whatever the town decides to go with. And what the scope is, what the town exactly we're gonna look at, and that'll be what they would do. Up to 20,000. It's 100% grant, so it's not a cash match for the town on this one. And then if you go to page 5, which will be under capital projects expenditures, you'll see the matching grant of 20,000. Again, it's a reimbursement. We spend 20,000, it gives 20,000 reimbursement. So it's a zero sum there. And I know we had talked about the demolition that we were gonna do. And so that was included into this budget for 15,000. I'm not sure if it'd be 10,000, 12,000, whatever, but that is the second commensurate amendment to the budget. And the net difference on page 1 is our unbudgeted revenues at 119,656, which is a change of approximately $9,000 more, since not all of the increased revenues were a matching expenditure. So this would actually increase our revenues over expenditures as budgeted.
Just out of curiosity, could you raise your postage amount since stamps are going up next month?
I have not. If you would like to add that as an additional amendment, I will do that.
Are you aware of that? You are now.
I am now.
I think 3 cents. Is that correct, Kathy?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't heard.
Yeah, they're going up next month.
And I can increase all of the postage line items by $100 each. I think that would probably cover.
300. 300 stamps.
We have two, we have the court that pays for stamps and City Hall that pays for stamps, so I can increase that expenditure amount.
Okay, I'm just
If you want to include that. in this amendment.
throwing that out to you. I don't know,
What's the stamp cost for smell?
50 cents.
Oh,
But we should get,
uh-huh.
we get a bulk rate, don't we?
Sometimes.
For the mailing, the big mailing for the water bills and stuff, but other than that, it's a regular stamp. And so, what is it, 54, 55, something like that?
58.
58, okay, so
On July 10th, it'll take a 2-cent increase to 60 cents.
Whoa,
Okay, so would it be feasible to get our own machine to stamp and weigh?
be something good to look into.
if we have the funding for it, I think that's what, $500 or so for the device, and then you pay with
And
all the
it's-
stamps.
Yeah, that's less than the subsidy. You get a discount on those, is that correct?
I've never looked into that far. I think, I know it's cheaper, but I don't know how much cheaper.
Well, you keep the machine for just pay the yearly cost of what we're going to.
Or we just increase the budget $10,000 and buy a whole bunch of forever stamps right now before they increase. I'm kidding.
I'm just throwing this out. I know there's
I
an increase.
haven't, I guess I haven't looked into that to see how much that would cost and what the cost savings would be by doing that. I think we can do that if you want. I can have that out to you.
Well, we still have a third reading.
Yeah, that's, and if it's something to look into on the third reading of the postage and what would be feasible if we need more for the postage or going that route, increasing and commensurate with that.
Okay. I think that, I'm not gonna increase the budget right now, but we have third reading. Let's look at the price of a stamp machine. And, you know how many, the volume of mail you have roughly.
Pretty close.
So when will they balance out?
We can definitely do that. That'd be easy.
I think it's 3 cents difference by using the Pitney Bowes machine. So whatever the current, so if it goes up to 60 cents, if you use the metered machine, I believe it will charge you 57 cents instead of.
So we have approximately about 500 pieces of mail any given month. $15 a month. Or $15 a month.
For how many?
I don't know.
There
500
you
pieces of
said
mail?
58 cents?
No, 3 cents, saving 3 cents.
Oh, save 3 cents.
3 cents.
About 500 pieces of mail a month, $15.
Yeah,
I can do math too. So what would,
We have 180 a year,
so if it costs $400, 2 years, we
2-3 years it's paid for.
pay for
You throw it away at the second year because it's updated software.
it. There's gotta be something.
I just, yeah, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's,
Maybe, maybe it makes sense. And maybe that, but, okay, I will do that. Got that, Kathy?
Sure. You still have a motion.
who made the original motion?
Oh, we will make the motion.
Oh, would you consider that a friendly amendment?
Yes.
Who had the second?
Sam,
Bob, would you consider that a friendly amendment?
yes.
And of a motion to approve the friendly amendment as presented by Town Clerk Kojai.
Can you make amendments?
I presented it.
He presented it.
I can't
He
make 'em.
he presented it.
Okay.
We had the motion, yeah. Can a motion approve the amendment to?
I'll make a
Oh,
motion.
oh, can I have a, can I have a, yeah, can I have a motion for the amendment
Yeah, I'll make a
as
motion.
presented? Can I have a second?
Second,
Been moved by Council Weavers, since second by Councilman Zent. We approve the amendment fiscal year 23-21 revenue as presented by Town Clerk Kojai. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion passed. Now, we can have we've already had a motion and a second on the budget. Any further discussion? None being, because, so the vote is on the fiscal 2023 year budget as amended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Permits.
First one is the flywheelers. They had a bunch of vendors that they did not get permits for prior to their Shoshoni days. So in lieu of not having it approved and it being for their event, other business license, they were allowed to proceed with the flywheelers because I wasn't gonna be the one to say no. However, they did submit the list. Kathy,
I'm about the 10th. So, or, I mean, right, like within a couple days.
so there was, so just formally to accept their business licenses for their vendors was under their business license as well.
So the,
Just a blanket.
so blanket one, so for the vendors that support the flywheel, that's what this first permit, the other ones underneath it, those are for
Those are all separate.
other.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Can I have a motion to approve license for the flywheelers?
So moved.
Moved by Councilman Demick, second by Councilman Weaver. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Business license, Big Kahuna.
So they are a vendor that is looking to have shaved ice, ice cream, cotton candy for the basketball tournament this weekend.
And a motion to approve the business license for the Big Kahuna.
I'll approve it.
Councilwoman Hartke made the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Weaver. We approve business license for Big Kahuna. Any discussion? None. Being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Both same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. Business license, Shay's Sweet Treats.
They again are another vendor looking to serve for the 3-on-3 tournament, snow cones, as well as cotton candy and some other treats. So that might be a one competitive free competition entrepreneurship there with the other group, but same scope as far as the 300 tournament on this weekend.
And a motion to approve the business license for Shay's Sweet Treats.
So moved.
Been moved by Councilman Demick. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Hartke. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same. Passed, all in the affirmative. Business license for boom or bust chuck wagon.
Another vendor for food for the 3-on-3 tournament. They have a pretty large menu under the name of Chuck Wagon, I guess, but it's everything from sandwiches to hot dogs and various other food truck items, I guess. But they will be the main actual food vendor, not candy, at the 3-on-3 tournament.
Kind of a motion to approve the business license for boom or bust chuck wagon.
I'll approve it.
Been moved by Councilwoman Hartke. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Demick. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Passed, all in the affirmative. Building permit for Wyco. Chemo.
So this is for the existing T-Mobile tower site located to our south off of Muskrat Road. It is to add a backup generator and improve the backup generator systems for power outages of that nature and any interruptions in service. And so it's more of a modification than an additional building. I believe I sent you the construction documents.
Yeah, all 17 pages.
I apologize. I didn't make them. I just sent them.
Can I have a motion to approve the building permit for Wyco T-Mobile for their generator?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Councilman Weaver. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Demick. Any further discussion? None being all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. We have a presentation by Downtown Redevelopment Service, Ben Levinger.
To screen share so he can present. Have you on your bed?
I got out of it so I could save the battery, so. give me a second.
Yes.
Here's what we're going along with. I printed it out, so if it didn't work, you got something to go with. Allow me to share.
There you go. It's all yours.
Okay. A minute. So, as you guys may know, we've been working on a hotel feasibility study for the past 2 months or so. Took us about a month to get the market analysis data from the business or Wyoming Community College, SBDC. So that took us a little while, but it's okay. It all got there in the end. So once we finished that, we went and did a market analysis, determined market demand, and started putting together some numbers. In the meantime, we did reach out to some hotel brands, some of the bigger ones, some of the smaller ones. And that's what we're here to talk to you guys about tonight, is to update you guys on that process so far. So first thing, the analysis and the evaluation process is done. We're looking at the feasibility and the location. Good news is utilities are at almost every site. So that's a good process. A lot of communities don't have utilities at most of the locations. So out of the analysis, the community condition, you guys are ready for it. However, we have to see if the demand is there, and I can tell you that it's not right now. But as a community, you guys are ready for it. So you have the things in place you need to have ready. Market analysis does show that there is an increase in demand for overnight accommodations. And the site evaluation, you have a few sites that would fit. Realistically, these facilities are looking for 7 to 10 acres. So some of these in-town sites are not necessarily going to be the best location for them. But those are things that we have not really evaluated past where the 7 to 10 acres could be, because there's not been a lot of interest from the firms to put in a hotel. So conditions, median household income 34,205, average property value a little over 108,000, and these were from 2020. There should be floating around a draft of the document where we're currently at as far as the market analysis and the other document. If not, I will get a PDF of it to Chris and we can ship that out to everybody. Again, nothing shocking here. The only statistic that I found interesting was the amount of commute time drastically reduced from 2010 to 2020. It was over an hour was the average commute in 2010. It's now 14.4 minutes.
We speak.
Where are they going?
One of them.
Right. I don't know where you're going in 14 minutes, but dang.
Fireworks shack?
So unfortunately, in 2020, there were a lot of people that answered with 0 because they were working from home. So there is that potential as something got a little skewed in that process. But we reported it because it was a drastic change. Fortunately, working with the SBDC, they did get us quite a few figures that were very important. The average tourist spends a little over $1,000 on hotels for their group of individuals on a trip. Which, so you're aware, Jackson is not that high.
What do you mean?
The town of Jackson's average hotel expenditure is $700 for their
Right?
trip. Nope, for
Oh,
the trip. Now, that could mean one of two things. People are spending one night there and a whole bunch of nights down towards you guys because it's more economical. Or people are spending more time here in general. So the average party size is also drastically increased here, 2.8 as opposed to 2 in most of the state. So it does say a lot of families or small groups of people are heading out this way. Hotels and short-term vacation rentals are still dominating your market by almost a factor of 2-fold over the average overnight accommodation in a private home where all the items put together. The other thing that we looked at as one of the primary factors was what the census calls disposable income. Disposable income is calculated after you pay your mortgage and any other necessities such as health insurance and utilities. It does not take out your car payments or your car insurance. Those are all considered disposable income. So your area, and we compared a 10-mile radius around Shoshoni to Fremont County, is dramatically higher than most of the county within a 10-mile radius. It shows people do have a fair amount of income that is disposable to support other retail or other items as expenditures. The only category that was a drop was 65 to 74-year-olds. Every other category was above. Through the market analysis, you've just seen that you are underserved in recreational vehicle sales and service by a factor of almost 2. So you could open up a facility here and have a gigantic amount of benefit from it. You have a pretty good potential growth sectors in non-hotel overnight stays, arts and culture expenditures, specifically clothing, and then specialty retails. So as far as the site evaluation, you can see on there, we really picked out, working with Chris, a couple of sites, and they are some of the larger blocks in town. The most likely one, if it was a hotel, would have been the one out on the west end of town as you leave town. Obviously, it's the largest tract of land and does meet most of the requirements. The smallest a 40-room hotel would go on is about 2 to 2.25 acres. That would require pretty severe parking variances from the group here to make that happen. Historically, a 40-room hotel needs about 60 parking spots, which is going to take half of that acreage by itself. So out of the sites we did go through, sorry, your packet's a little smaller. We did put them in the PDF packet full size. But this would be what we would call site number 2. They're a little out of order, but site number 1 is the one out on the west end of town. Site number 2 is immediately across the street over here. As far as conditions for a hotel, site number 2 is the ideal location. It is not the right size, but it is the ideal location for a hotel. And then site number 3 is just up the road here, about 3.5 blocks. Immediately across from what is the current RV park, recently opened RV park. So those are the 3 sites we looked at so far. Again, we welcome the chance if you guys have other ideas to look at those as well. We were looking for things that were enough acreage, but also had good frontage as far as a retail purpose. There needs to be area for signage. There needs to be high traffic counts that are driving by daily. Those are the types of things that we look for, and that's why they were put on the major thoroughfares. So what does this mean? The community is ripe for development. However, a hotel is very unlikely. And I can share with you why in just a minute. Market conditions warrant more retail, restaurants, and those types of things before overnight accommodations are going to be likely. A one-time cash influx would be required if you were going to get a hotel in town. And then some other options need to be evaluated before a hotel likely. That would be less impact financially. So the next steps, we put together 3 options for you guys. Out of those options, the first one is a new hotel facility. Second one is a modular cabin facility. The third one is an expansion of the existing RV park. So we'll talk about each one of them. As far as hotels, we've reached out to Best Western, Super 8, Motel 6, Hilton, and Cobblestone. The only one that was interested was Cobblestone. And they typically require 30 to 35% cash contribution from the municipality up front. For a 40 or 50 room hotel, it's about $6 million right now to build. So you'd be looking at a little over $2 million.
Write them a check.
Yes.
Amend that budget.
Just tell them not to cash the check for a while,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yes, right.
10 years.
So the Cobblestone, they are very nice hotels. They're kind of on par with the Best Western. Are not known for the glowing amenities. They have a reheat and fry restaurant that serves beer, wine, and liquor in the lobby area. So they make chicken wings and French fries and that type of stuff. They do require high visibility. The facility could, again, reheat beer, wine type of items. And then it is a franchise facility. So what that means is once you guys make a donation or cash contribution, yeah, I can say that. It is hands off. They manage everything. They have regional managers already in the state of Wyoming. They've got a couple around. They have 2 in Afton, Alpine area. They've got 1 in Sundance. They're building one right now in Casper. So it would not be a stretch for them to build another one in this area. But the beauty of their process is it is entirely hands off. Once you're there, they don't come back for anything. They get franchisees. They do whatever they have to do on their end. So all the permitting and everything they do and pass it off. Which means you don't have to worry about a franchisee going, well, but I need. That's all taken care of. A little bit about their typical brand. So this is what would be called their 3-story model. Typically, their first entire floor is a small conference facility and their back of house, sheet washing, all that kind of stuff. They do other floors above it. This area we have been informed would be likely to be a 3-story, which would put you in the 40-room count. You might be able to stretch it to 50 rooms depending on the size of the lot. The locations where they're at, we pulled a screenshot so you guys could see all those little blue dots as to where they currently have one of their branded hotels. So we went right down the middle of the road, 45 rooms, roughly 400 square feet. Gives you almost 18,000 square foot of room space, staging area at 7,500. And that does include cleaning, prep, and some small conference room rentals if somebody did desire them. Roughly 25,000 square feet. And you can see there the various other calculations. At the end of the day, you need roughly 68,500 square feet or a little over 1.5 acres is the absolute bare minimum for that type of facility. And that would be 20-foot lanes in the parking lot, 9x18 parking spots. That's very small. So while that's not advised, we wanted to put in there what the smallest could be because at 1.5 acres, it could go in more locations. Realistically, 3, 4, 5 acres would be best if you could get that space for them. As you can see, the parking lot adds up. It's amazing how much $55 a square foot adds up for parking construction, but that's just kind of the cost that it is right now. Asphalt's crazy. The building costs, we put $165 a square foot. We know that's a little low, but we wanted to try and remain realistic in this effort. If we really went at the $200 or $210 a square foot, that would be significantly higher. And we didn't have to go all the way that far up to make the numbers not make sense. Roughly 10% contingency, which is not abnormal. We see 8 to 10% regularly. A couple thousand in permits, engineering and architectural fees. Puts you at a little over $6 million, which at that 35% roughly, the municipality would be 2.16 million as a contribution. As you guys know, there is not a good way to capture that money back. You'll get some new revenue from the restaurant, but you're unlikely to collect nightly sales tax. The county's not going to share that with you because they really don't have a way to pitfall exactly what that facility is doing and not everybody else. It is a very large upfront cost to the municipality. The tax generation would be very minor. Hopefully the spinoff at some point would be beneficial, but right now you would not make much money to pay this off in the 20-year, 30-year horizon. And realistically, in 30 years, let's be honest, who's seen a hotel that's 30 years old and was still in good shape? A lot of them are not. Limited flexibility to meet changing demographics. And there is a large amount of competition within your 20-minute drive radius. Once you get to Riverton, it's just about anybody's there. The quick numbers we got have over 500 hotel rooms in that city alone. And they do currently have room for growth because they're only hitting about 75% occupancy at any given time. Short of if they're having a tournament or something for kids sports, then I'm sure they're full. But they're only hitting about 75% capacity is what's reported. So it's not like adding this hotel is fixing a problem they have. They currently have room for growth still. So as a developer speaks, they like to see a return on investment at the 10 years that's in the 18 to 25% category. In 10 years, you hit 0.89% ROI. At 15 years, you hit 9.85%. However, developers look at the 7 to 10 year horizon because that's where they're going to sell the property to the next franchising. And they want to make their money before it sells. By those numbers alone, and what we did is we gave everybody those large prints. Those are your generic pro formas. So we gave you two options, which one of them is a month by month and the other one is a 15-year projection. If you look at the month by month, we made a few assumptions, and these are based off of what we were given by Cobblestone as they were the most likely candidate for the effort. We had a space in there in the parking lot for rentals if somebody parked a truck or trailer, something like that. So 30 nights a month, 50 hotel rooms at 75% occupancy at $80 a night. That sounds low because it kind of is. However, you have to keep in mind that in the summer, they're going to charge 120, 140, and in the winter, it's going to be $75 or $50 because there's not going to be as many people coming through town. And that's, if anybody's been to anywhere in the state, Jackson, if you hit there in April, the hotel rooms are dirt cheap because it's off season. Unfortunately, if you're there in June and July, they're $450, $500 a night. So it's kind of the swing, the same thing again. 75% occupancy is a very high figure in a town like this. However, that is what Cobblestone reported as their average occupancy rate is 75%. So it doesn't shock me for their brand. However, I think in this town that would be a little hard to achieve. But we wanted to go off the figures we were given because that they know more than we do about that type of stuff. So we're going with what they've got. So based off of that, at 2.164 million, your monthly payments would be a little under $14,000 a month on a mortgage for that amount for 20 years. And your earned income tax would be nothing, really. And their interest and principal payment would be roughly $30,000 a month for their mortgage, which we also know they cannot withstand. So you'll see the net operating income there. The first year they're losing a little over $9,000 a month on what they would potentially return. That's not abnormal. However, the problem is the rent increase is not outpacing the potential upkeep or other maintenance costs that increase, like cost of living for their employees. That is currently outpacing rental increases. So we did, the next one you'll see is, it is the 15-year projection. They would make money starting at year number 8, but $300,000 a year for a facility that size is not enough of a justification for a developer to come in and spend that kind of money and wait 7 years to get money back. Now, one thing I will tell you about the 10 or the 15-year horizon one, we did put in there at year number 7, $1 million for a building rehab or renovation work. Carpets, floors, mattresses, walls, toilets, it all adds up real quick. So you'll see that in year 7 and year 15 as one-time increases. So at the end of the day, that is not necessarily an option that, I mean, we can write it up as that's your option, but I can tell you confidently that's not going to work. The developer's not going to come in for that kind of money. So option number 2, modular cabins. If anybody's familiar with the Cowboy Village in Jackson or the Kodiak in Afton, they're essentially RV parks that have modular cabins on the grounds as well. Those cabins rent for anywhere from $100 to $300 a night. I'm not saying you guys would rent for that price, but that's where we found their rates to be. Both of those are currently booked out for the entire year. They were booked out in January for the entire year. So it's not a abnormal thing for people to purchase. These facilities are typically smaller in size and owned by local business owners. They have additional items that do provide a strong benefit to the community, like they sell coal, firewood, camping type items at their little general store that they offer to people. It allows for an expansion program. These types of facilities, you could start with 10 cabins, and when it makes more money, add 10 more cabins, add 10 more cabins. And if you need to grow, you can keep growing. One of the biggest downsides is you may require a burning or a fire permit for some of these individuals if they want to do a bonfire type facility on their property. Something you may have to consider in the process. Now, the one thing is there are typically limited dining options on site, which is why having more restaurants would be great to support this effort. Quick images of it. What we have up right now is the Cowboy Village in Jackson. I strongly recommend not making them this tight. If you can see the image on the upper right-hand corner, each one of those little blocks is a 400 square foot cabin. You're parking right on top of each other. The only complaints people ever get is if somebody brings a truck, you can't park anywhere because somebody brought their truck in there. And let's be honest, a lot of people are making that type of choice of their nightly accommodations of driving a bigger vehicle, and that's okay. But you just have to plan accordingly. So I do understand why they put it as many as they did in there. They maximized whatever they could. Now the Kodiak in Afton, this is their layout. Theirs are a little larger. So they have 1 bedrooms in there. They're not just studios. They have bunk beds. They've got places for families. It's a great facility because they would be matched similar to what you guys have. They have great natural amenities around, yet they have a really nice large cabin at the very up front of it, which has a little game room. They have a restaurant in it. They sell sundries if you need toiletry type items, or if you need marshmallows or whatever your camping requires, they sell it to you. Fortunately, Afton has 2 grocery stores, but you'd be amazed how many people go there to buy just the bag of marshmallows so they don't have to get in their car and drive down the road. This place, if I booked right now, we could get in June of 23. And they are making money hand over fist because those facilities, each cabin costs about $30,000 to make. So they were paid off before year 2 started. They took the option of having them be 4-year or 4-season facilities, so you can rent them in the winter. Up here, you may not want that. Your market may not demand that, but it's something to look at. So by the numbers, this one, a total investor we're projecting to be a little over 2.25 million. Why am I seeing something different than that?
That screen's got the previous.
That one's having trouble. Okay. I love technology.
Sounds good.
Okay. So site improvements, when we talk about the site here, the most expensive improvement for these facilities is honestly the gravel. Right now, we're projecting about $15 a square foot, and that includes gravel for pads, gravel for driveways. Really, that's it. There's limited actual other infrastructure to put in. You have to run your standard items that would go to a small cabin. Sewer, water, electric. That's it. And again, it's not really any different than what you have for your hookup out here for your RV park. So 20 cabins on 2 acres. You have family cabins, which we call it 220 or 425 square feet, which if you look at the picture, you'd see the bottom picture, there's a bunk bed. That's typically what we call a family cabin. It sleeps 3 or 4 people. 10 smaller cabins. Those cabins are roughly $37.5 each to build. So you're looking at $750,000 there for the cabins, a little over $1.25 million for the site improvements. But at the end of the day, this doesn't really cost the municipality anything because this is all private development. You don't have to put money out to undertake this. Now, the one thing we did not build into this is the purchase of land. You guys could dedicate a project of land or dedicate land to a project like this at no cost as your contribution to the project. If not, we can add that in there and put a couple $100,000 extra on there for the purchase of the land. But you would see a fairly good amount of effort back from this as far as tax revenue between restaurants and other purchases. So some pitfalls, you are going to have competition with your local RV park. However, if you were to go down just the cabin category, it would not be too much of a stretch. It is, we would still call it limited tax generation, but you're going to get more than you would out of the restaurant and a hotel facility because people are typically spending more at these facilities to purchase all the other things they don't buy at a hotel. $10 bundles of firewood and that 4 bags of marshmallows does add up more than you think. The other potential pitfall is long-term tenants. Some areas are seeing these facilities get rented for months at a time by one tenant. Because sometimes it is cheaper to work a deal and rent this facility for a month than it is to live in a hotel for a month or rent a other facility in the town. I'm not sure that's what we would run into in Shoshoni. However, I do want to put it out there as an option. So if you go down this path, make sure you have your short-term rental ordinances in place. Limiting people to 14 days or whatever it may be. Option number 3, we're calling the RV park expansion. Right now, the RV park has a fairly sizable chunk of land right along the highway that could be repurposed for modular cabins. That would be a benefit to their business model, but also a benefit to the community. It's a win-win scenario because you actually have all the utilities already at the site and you have a business model that supports nightly rentals and that type of overturn on a regular basis. It really is a win-win for the community on that effort. You're just filling in more space as to what they currently have. This would also allow you to work with places like the Small Business Development Center, SBDC, and the Wyoming Business Council to help get grants for private businesses that would be a benefit to the community because you already have somebody in town. Very limited upfront costs. It's very scalable. There's parcels across the street. If it did get really busy, you could always build more. It is within walking distance of your restaurants. And I know what I'm saying when I say restaurant, I'm talking about the fast lane. However, there's nothing wrong with the sandwiches they make. I've eaten them plenty of times. Again, may require a fire or burning permits, but the ideal situation here would be to have these be 3-season cabins. The reason 3-season cabins are ideal is because essentially the cost is dramatically less if you do a 3-season cabin. So a couple of items to look at. Has anybody seen these boxable unfolding homes before? They would be a great opportunity to bring some of this in. They are one price point, they're $49,995. I know that sounds like a game show, but that is the price that's quoted online. They come in on a truck, they literally fold them out and roll the walls out, and they're a facility that's built in a day. That's as long as it takes them. The hardest thing, you have to put in a concrete pad underneath them. But they have a plan or a template that basically says you need to have your pipes here and your connections here and here and here, and that's it. Other than that, they come in, they unroll them, and you're set. Before seeing where the RV park was, we had the box on the wrong side of the road, so forgive me for that. It should be on the other side of the road. The other option are more basic facilities like these. Again, these are more cabin-ish, but they do have a variety. So the best thing that could happen on that site would not necessarily be have each facility, each building look the exact same. They could be a little different siding, different rooms, if they were themed. People love themed locations. Let's be honest, once you get on this inside, they're all the same. It's a toilet, a shower, and a bed. But they love the outside being themed. So
You go back to explaining more detail on what a 3-season cabin is.
correct. And we can actually stay right here. The 3-season cabin does not have insulation in the walls. You would have to put in something like a gas buddy heater for your mud season or your spring and fall, but they are not fully insulated, central heating and cooled. They are more, I would call them a hunting cabin. Does that make sense to you guys? They're not as glamorous, but they do fit 3 seasons. Up here, you know, air conditioning may not be the thing that these people need. All you do is open the window and everything flies away. But it is something that you could look at as an option because these cabins are about $20,000 as opposed to $37,500. So if you're talking about a low cost entry point, this one would take an cost investor about $750,000 to put in 10 cabins and do the site prep for up to 20 cabins. So this is a much lower entry point as to what somebody would have to put out there to make this work. Even with these figures, and we put in $125 a night, the person would have this paid off if they had 50% occupancy for 7 months a year. They would have this paid off by 18 months. So it's, like I said, it's definitely a win-win scenario in this process because it would be a point where essentially somebody like your RV park could work with you guys to get some grants for site development and then have a lowered cost for site improvements. And they focus on solely the cabins, which should make it less than a year for a payoff. So the other thing that we put in here, if this was the path that you guys wanted to go down, it would be nice to see a sidewalk added down that side of the road down to the fast lane. And that would be at the municipal cost, but it would be a great way to get people coming into the downtown area. So pitfalls of option number 3, limited impact. Donation of the land. It sounds like they already own that. So unless you want to put it somewhere else, you would have the cost of a crosswalk and sidewalks and really have summer only items, which I think for the first couple of years is probably not the world's worst idea. While if you can lower their upfront cost and get that people in the door for 7 months a year, you'd be surprised that maybe in 3 years they want 4-season cabins or whatever it may be. And in 3 years, you may need to reevaluate and a hotel may be warranted depending on how much you grow. But right now it's just, fortunately, it's not an option. So that's what we had for you. Those were the 3 options. And if you guys can kind of give us direction, we're happy to answer any questions. We will move forward with details, some site plan type items and push that through a little quicker and give you the final report. So.
I got a question for you. Have you looked at any of the business council models or anything that would help support some site prep and stuff? for this?
So there is not necessarily a program that would be ideally situated for it. But that doesn't mean they can't, that they wouldn't fund it. There's just not one that says, oh, that's absolutely the one that it would go under. However, if you're talking about a $750,000 investment, there's a lot of people that would invest that kind of money to get their return within a year. That's pretty good. A lot of people that build a building don't get it for 7 years. If you get it in 1 to 2 years, that's still a really great opportunity. So, anybody else?
2 acres, that's just, get it in mind, that's that's like a block or a block that I live on, that's approximately 2 acres.
So the
Here in
parcel
town.
we had across the street. This parcel outlined in red is a little over 2 acres, just so you're aware. I think it was like 2.1, 2.15.
Right.
And don't shoot me, that was by Google Earth calculations, so who knows? But essentially, if you took that whole block, it could be very, you could have a nice facility. And realistically, on the other side, 10 acres is, or 10 units would fit on that 1 acre fairly quickly as well, with plenty of room for a little playground or other facilities for group gathering type items. People don't usually think how small 400 square feet is, but it's not very big. So, I mean, there's, if you park 2 cars or 2 of your trucks next to each other, that's what these buildings are. So 20 by 20.
Also, what I believe on that cost there, that wouldn't include like a small store up front, correct?
It would not. The benefit of that would be if you were to do it on the side that if you already had the RV park, you could work something out with them. That's something that could be beneficial to both sides. So their RV group or their RV pull-through slots could use it and the cabins could use it. So, and if you'd like, we can try to work up a square footage on that, but a lot of times, I'll just be blunt, they put up a steel building, the cheapest thing they can make, and people still go in there and it doesn't matter. So. If that's enough, if you guys want to go with option 3, we can try and work up that cost. Any direction you guys can give me?
I don't know, we'd need to talk with Confidence Builders and see if they have some interest. That's who owns the RV park. That would be one thing that I think even option 2 looks like could be a viable, looks like it to me would be a viable option.
Agreed. I think that that's definitely a viable option, but if you can support a local business, I'm always in favor of supporting local business first.
Agreed.
But again, you know, I just want to reaffirm the hotel isn't out. It's just costly.
Costly. Timing isn't good.
No. And it's, we were fairly confident when this started, that's how this was going to turn out. However, like we told you guys from the beginning, we'll come up with other options if it does not pencil out. So the most likely options are these little cabin parks. They do seem to fit the demographic of people that are traveling through this area. So.
Would the council like to talk to Confidence Builders and see if they have interest as option 1? I mean, our first attempt, and depending on what they say, make up our mind what direction we want to go. If they have no interest, then move into the second option where see if we can help develop that and find an investor.
Part of me says, I want to see what's happening with the property across the street. That's for the economic development. And saying,
Right.
and let more businesses have that option to look at something like this instead of just going with confidence builders. I would like to open our window up a little wider and say, is there somebody who would put this across the street where
Sure.
he has the red square right now?
Right.
That's,
Okay, sure.
so I'm not ready to say just one person yet. So I'm kind of saying, I want to know what's going to happen in this number 15 executive session before I open my mouth too much.
Okay, sure, you bet.
And that's perfectly fine. I mean, either way, we can start moving forward with one of the two parcels, but the pro formas are only going to change slightly, so we can start doing some of the other work. We're just trying to, can we all agree that a hotel is not a feasible option at this point?
I think so.
Okay. Then we'll keep moving until you guys give us direction the other way, but we can at least get some of the other stuffs going in the right direction.
Sure.
I'd love to see a hotel in town, but you're years out from that still.
Feasibility study showed it's not very feasible
I-
at this time.
And if you talk to a hotel, they need a couple of things. So you guys are aware. There has to be a place for people to gather. They need to eat and they need to fill up. So you've got the gas station. But when they say eat, they're not necessarily thinking it's also in the gas station. And place to gather, it's great in the summer months because there's parks in town, but that doesn't necessarily help in the winter months. So there's nowhere for people to go. There's not a bowling alley or some other facility for people to go to. Those are the three things they're looking at besides the pro formas to make sure it's a valid location. So.
Any more questions for Ben? Appreciate your insight on this.
Not a problem.
We'll work on it on our end.
Okay. We'll control back.
Tasha Rothschiller,
Haven't seen her.
I haven't either. She's not on Zoom or.
No.
Move on to unfinished business. Naming the new annexation that we're fixing a larger community. We had any online?
Yep, I'll put that out there. So I put out a survey and the responses we got were Herbst Acres, Jackrabbit Flats twice, Newtown expansion, not very, Newtown development had 4, so pretty much what I asked for. The question is repeated as the answer. New Wild West, Sage, just Shoshoni, West Side Edition, which we already have, Wind River, and then the West Wing. That was kind of. So that was the responses we received.
Any ideas from the audience?
Well, like a Copper Mountain Estates. Recommend it to him.
Well, that's all, that part of our annexion's all most part, I think we're looking at the horse type property and stuff like that. Wild West,
New Wild West.
New Wild
We already
West.
had
That
Wild
doesn't
West.
sound that bad.
Horsepower, I thought it was supposed to be 40 homes.
No,
No,
that's,
Prospect Park.
that's already named.
Oh, that's what you meant by that.
Yeah, that's all,
Okay.
that's
I
already.
thought we were just calling the whole thing over there.
No, it's just the new annexation, which is how many acres? Over 200 acres?
113.
No, it's more than that. We're annexing more than just what is annexed in all
Whatever.
these-
Yeah.
Plus 73,
Yeah,
so 153, I guess.
well, 73 plus, oh, minus, see, 113, so 73 plus,
South, which was 80 minus the 3, so 76, or 40, 150 or so acres. Yeah. It's all that area that's not.
right, yeah, I mean, that's including, okay, I guess this is already in. So. That's 80 acres there.
Everything south of the mushroom farm.
Okay, so yeah, so 153, whatever that includes this.
We call them
yeah.
Mollyhaga Acres.
Oh,
We're not including
Mollyhaga, is
cemetery.
that their name? They're the closest over there.
oh, a guy or. Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, probably 153 acres or something. But that's what we're looking at.
They go with the cemetery's name. Lakeview.
Lakeview,
I believe Lakeview's already taken as an addition.
I think it is
Is
too.
it? I didn't realize that.
About
Yeah.
Mountain View.
Mountain View is also taken.
We had a list, where's our list? We had a list of names.
Pleasant View.
That one's not taken.
Yeah.
Whoa, sir. There's jackrabbits out there.
Are there?
Yeah.
Prairie
Coyotes,
dogs.
coyotes,
Antelope.
antelope, yeah.
Oh, Antelope Flats is taken. Shoshoni's Dream Development.
Undecided.
Undecided development. That's
Jackrabbit Flats.
What was that?
Speed Goat Flats.
Yeah. That ain't bad. There's plenty of speed goats out there.
Scorpions.
Someone's got the Wind River. Wrangler Acres. Where's Wrangler?
I'm not good at naming stuff. It's funny. I didn't name any of my kids.
Don't blame you. 1, 2, he, she, you. I don't introduce myself because people will tell me their name. I don't want to be obligated to remember because I won't remember their names. That's why I wear mine. So.
You already have West Side Editions already taken.
That one's already taken.
Yeah. I mean,
And honestly, West Side Edition is not really original. It's like,
Mm.
West Side, what do we call it?
Right,
It's the
yeah,
West Side
it's
Edition.
on the west side of town.
Herbst Acres. A lot of history there.
Yeah. That's right, that been landowner for a lot of years,
Mhm. It keeps it kind of
you know.
right.
So there
here.
was, there used to be years ago, someone out there where Dwayne's wanting to put his pub out there. They used to have a oven. I used to use them rocks out there and do some baking and stuff out there. He's
First bakery in Shoshone.
huh?
The first bakery in
Right.
Shoshone was out there. That's rocks.
I'd go with Herb's Acres. I have no problem. with that.
I kind of rings with me.
Is that the spot you were talking about? You can see the elk? The Elk Point or something like that. Great marketing.
What was that again? Could you identify yourself and speak up on the? Come and take the microphone.
Way to go.
Oh,
Way to go.
is that right, Elk Point? When you were, it's good marketing when you, I don't know if that's where you were talking about that you get elk hunt out here, but if you could even see the point that you can hunt, good marketing.
You can jackalope hunt a whole lot easier.
Yeah. We're, well,
Antelope, View-
15 miles away from Elk.
Oh,
Antelope View. States, something like that. Got a lot of view of antelope.
I think antelope's good. I think Herbst is good. Because there's definitely speed goats, antelopes, there's definitely that out there. I'd be good with either one of those.
So far, I
Elk-
like
elk,
Herbst the best from what we got.
I'll second your motion.
All right, I'll motion
Okay, been moved by Councilman Weaver that we name our new annexation. Herbst Acres.
it. Herbst Acres, Bob?
Yep.
Mike?
It's fine.
Because we plan to keep it in acreage. right?
Yep.
Herbst Acres, been seconded by Councilman Zant to name the new annexation Herbst Acres. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Both same, motion passed all in the affirmative. I do like the optimistic view of elk. Lure someone in, but they're a little further away.
I didn't know what he was talking about.
I actually found some elk ivories about 4 months ago out here in the desert, about maybe a mile out of town, not even that far, half a mile.
Oh, really?
Was
Should've
kind of
been
fun.
Fred.
Oh, there's been elk spotted in there. Well, you even have seen turkey here.
Yeah, I've seen
A couple of
turkey.
years ago, I've never seen a
Yeah,
turkey. in
there's
town.
turkeys in the tree. All the tree I cut down.
Yeah. I've never seen a turkey here.
And then a couple bull elk and hobo jungle down the way to Bonneville.
Yeah,
A couple bulls.
yeah. Shoshoni Senior Center roof repair replacement.
So I just needed to figure out the direction on this. So the senior center roofing project has been completed. However, the reimbursement that we received from the insurance company for the senior center has been met, and we have approximately $31,000 remaining in bills to finish paying off, one being the release of retainage, but the final bill as well for Summit that did work out there. And being that is May, the options are check with the senior center if they wanted to pay for it directly or reimburse the town, or the other option is the their endowment fund balance in there exceeds what's required, so we can pay it from that. But one way or another, we have to figure out which, I need to figure out which way to go.
Let me put in a little bit on that. I've been in contact with the insurance company. I was gone all last week. I haven't seen any messaging from them. I've sent them all the receipts and everything we paid. They were gonna review that. They still have a retainage of how much?
The retainage is 13,000, I believe.
Something like that, yeah. They're still holding that. And we've submitted some costs that were not anticipated. They may or may not approve them. But anyway, I sent them all the doc before, we 4th, where I was gone all last week. I sent them all of that. So I haven't seen anything on their decision. But in any event, we're gonna have to pay. We're talking to Ken Cundall, he's not in town right now, but they have some, I believe they have some funding to pay for some of this and or there's money in their endowment that we can draw from. Hopefully we'll have an answer in the next week or so on the insurance, so we know the exact amount.
Are we getting more back from the insurance?
We could. I've applied for, I've asked for more money. I sent them all the bills, documentations they requested. So we'll just have to see where that lies. There was some to get insurance or warranty on the roof. We had as part of the Summit sheet metal, they had to raise some of the air conditioner stuff. They had to raise them higher. They had to do some additional work on the roof. We actually do not have a code that says that they had to do that. So because we don't have a code, that may get denied, but it was something that was said that it needed to be done, or the roofing contractor would not guarantee the roof. Was kind of where we was at on that. We also, the senior center and the town, we didn't have really the personnel to oversee that site. The senior center reached out to Gordon Associates to have them supervise the bidding documents, oversight of the construction of that. And so there's some of that in there also. And we've also turned that in for reimbursement. But I haven't heard from the insurance company. Haven't seen an email. So I'll try to reach out to them, see where we're at on that. So. But in any event, they do have money in their endowment to pay for it, correct? So. We trying to do this before end of our budget year? Is that what's?
It doesn't matter to me if we do it now and we just take care of it now, or if we just wait and then amend the budget accordingly.
We have another council meeting on the 28th. Let's just table this and see,
Hopefully
get
we'll have-
information back from the insurance company and all the other bills come in hopefully the next 2 weeks. That way you'll talk to senior center.
Yeah.
leadership
Hopefully I'll have a chance to talk to Ken.
And say, where would you like to have this money come from? I think we need, they need to give input before we make this decision.
Agree. I was hoping to talk to Ken about that today, but he had to leave town and wasn't able to do that. So.
So that's my motion, just to table it till 2 weeks.
Been moved by Councilman Zent, we table it to the next regular scheduled council meeting. Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been second by Councilman Hardkey that we move to our next regular table to our next regular scheduled council meeting. Any further discussion? None being, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed the same. Motion passed, all in the affirmative. We have a presentation about electric vehicle charging station. Would you please come up? Introduce yourself and we'll
Kind of threw me for a loop. Hi, I'm Michelle Haynes, Francis Energy. I apologize. This didn't quite go as planned, but give you guys a little information.
back, go ahead.
Sorry. I think you're still don't have post.
Don't what?
Someone's trying to connect to the TV.
That would be me.
Go ahead. You mean allow you? Sorry.
Yes, it's not gonna let me do it for me. Okay, well, we'll
You can
just,
go to Zoom if you want. You can do it through Zoom.
I'll just give you a rundown because I don't want to keep you guys really late. I'd met with the mayor before and we kind of discussed the program and he put it on the agenda then and seemed to favor. Gosh, I wish it would show up. I didn't bring my laptop, I apologize. Let's not get it. So basically what we were asking was to, right now there's a about 7.5 billion earmarked in government funding in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. And so what we do is we come in, we put in EV superchargers. What makes us a little different is I'm sure everybody knows Tesla with the news and everything these days, but Tesla chargers are proprietary. So although they cut the time so that EV charges are more equivalent to pumping a tank of gas, they only work on Teslas. If you have a Chevy Bolt or a subcompact, the Tesla charger won't get it. These superchargers will. It makes every car the same. Basically what I talked about with the mayor was the federal funding covers about 80%, and then we cover the rest. We also design, develop the plans. When we awarded, we get it done. We've got the software management, which adds the city to a map, which under the new growth plan you guys have with Crossroads, anybody who's ever come from Cody or Riverton trying to get to Casper to take their kids to soccer or a horse show comes through here. So it's actually a great place to have an EV charger. GM, Ford, and Chrysler, this is going to be 50% of their vehicle sales by 2030. And as of now, 43 brands are available in America. So there's a federal directive to locate charging stations every 50 miles on every corridor. Montana's already got it, Idaho's got it, and Wyoming's next. It's already on the whiteout strategy. So what we had discussed is obviously it costs the city nothing. And we said we'd bring it here before we went to Lander, which is the alternate route when everybody's kind of trying to go the same direction. And what it gains, like the one we're proposing in Cody, they want it in front of the chamber for tourism. And the grant money is available because you guys are a municipality and it's to make everybody grow. And then rather than say the new facility, Volkswagen facility that Fremont Motors is building or a town pump putting them in, that's for profit. This is automatically going to put your town on the map and it belongs to the city. And then over time, it opens you guys up to profit sharing and everything else at no cost to the city. And then you're on the top end of everything. And when someone goes in their phone that owns an EV, it gives them that, and there's a whole network nationwide that says your next charge is Shoshoni, Wyoming. Which of course, you're gonna bring more traffic through. But the great thing about EVs is they're silent. So it's not gonna increase noise or disturb anybody in the population. But at the same time, it's gonna bring more people through to shop. And that could be great for your local businesses. And it didn't cost the city anything. Basically what we asked for is 600 square foot. And that's for soft ground, access to 3-phase power. When we apply for your grant, we just request 4 spaces. Typically with the population, till the traffic catches up, we'll just install 2, but we will put in all the infrastructure for 4. And then, of course, the pavement parking spot area, you guys can designate if it's all the time parking or just EV parking, or there's really no downside to municipalities at all, because you guys basically don't have to lift a finger, and it brings the traffic in. And that's kind of it in a nutshell for municipalities. And again, right now, the funding's there for everybody who wants to take advantage. It won't be always. And so it saves quite a bit of money.
Michelle came and presented this to me last Monday, and we had a pretty good conversation about it. And I asked her to go across the street and talk with Fast. There is a program for them. Also, I do know, talking with Monica today, that Fast Lane is pretty excited with what Michelle's brought to them. Because my one concern, make sure we're not the town competing with a local business. And that's why I thought I knew Fast Lane was seeking this. You have a program for small businesses, but it's different than what you're presenting.
Right, so we have a couple options because that's for profit. So the grant money is a little different. And then we have what's called owned assets, which is what we do to municipalities. We lease to a city and we pay the electric bill. We pay all the costs. We put it in our app. We do all that. But then the benefit to the city is we share all our third-party data. So it's going to give the city free demographics, like without lifting a finger. Just because every time you plug your car in, it downloads so much information. As well as, so with them though, we have what's called owned assets. And typically we help them get financed, but because they're in the energy business, whether it's fuel or whatever, their cost structure is a little different and the grants aren't quite the same. That makes sense.
Yeah, they're gonna end up having some money invested into it, where we're getting in, where the town would get into it with no cost to the town at all.
Correct.
Except providing a parking spot.
Correct. And then the lease, you guys get all that benefit, but then we can even build in to say, and within a 10-year period, because the one thing in doing this type of project is not lucrative for the first 5 to 10 years for anybody. So it's all on our risk. But, we can offer the city profit sharing later in the lease. And it's not a high amount for the first 20, but it's something. And I'm sure they'd be glad to donate a tree.
I've set in on YDOT put on a meeting in Riverton last month on this very thing. And then I just set in on another one YDOT put on down in Laramie. And I actually discussed this with the head of YDOT, Luke, he's a retired general, so I'm calling him general. And I talked with him and he seemed interested in this. He said, this seems to be different than what YDOT is putting some funding together, and I have some information on that. They're,
This is federal.
yeah, and this is coming from, this is money they're getting from the feds also.
Mhm, yeah.
And they have their corridors. Okay,
Yes.
so that's the interstate.
Mhm.
Those are gonna get funded first.
Every 50 miles.
Yeah, Wyoming is gonna put in for some exemptions to try to get away from the every 50 miles. So they can bring more charging stations to places like Shoshoni. And other places off corridor. And they also have like a 1 mile, they gotta be within 1 mile. There's a 1 mile limit that's supposed to be, and they have some existing ones that are 2 miles away, and they're trying to get those exemptions. They're working on this. This here would be immediate. The others could be several years down the road with the state. It'd be kind of 3 years down the road before it would come. So there's probably something going to be here, because they're right now anyway, the federal government that pushes for electric vehicles. The bonus, electric vehicles are coming whether I like them or not, probably. I don't ever see me buying one, but I guess the bonus would be, we're gonna be on your app.
Right. And it's not just our app because we're non-proprietary. There's apps for EV owners all over the country, but like yesterday going to Cody from Clark, Wyoming, I passed 4 EVs. I mean, they're here. And then everyone else is wanting more of the corridors done, I-25 and everything else. And like I said, when I saw you, this town saved my life more time hauling kids to soccer games and horse shows. And now what you're seeing in Montana is they did do the corridors at every 50. And now they're going back and doing a survey, the DOT there on, wait, we missed all these corridors in these crossroads that are, small towns that would have benefited hugely, because it gives you more than one way to go. And obviously you can't get it just everywhere on I-90. So it does make a difference. And of course, the funding, once more word gets out, more small towns hear about it, they're going to go for it, because it's every 50 miles and that's it for the funding. So the first people that get it and break ground, and just to give you an idea, Joel, on that timing, you'd be breaking ground depending on the infrastructure that's here. We're talking about like probably being done by the end of summer, if not before.
I'm gonna go back to what you said the town needs to do. 600 square feet,
Mhm.
3-phase power. Does the town need to put in the 3-phase power, or you?
So we don't, the town provides the 3-phase. We put in all the infrastructure for the solar chargers and all that expense.
Okay.
So Joel had mentioned that you guys were moving over there for the
Right.
town hall, and that he thought it had 3-phase. And then he mentioned if not, the police department had it. And
No, I think we got 3-phase near.
the shop,
The shop.
sorry.
I think we may have
Apologize.
3-phase there, but we have 3-phase in town. I don't know how far we have to go.
And if you're gonna do that, the main thing is, you want something that's gonna promote, when they're charging your businesses, your tourism, everything we were talking about earlier, if there's cabins, that's great information, because, oh, look, there's a place to stay while we're I mean, it's literally, they can be in and out in 20 minutes. So that's what most cities are looking at, like local chambers and everything, is how to promote getting people to stay in town and spend money. And Joel, do you still have that entire folder?
I've had copies
Okay.
made out in past.
Oh, okay, perfect. Since I
It's,
can't connect.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Monica. I was gone all last week.
Yeah.
But I had a conversation and I wasn't 100% sure of your discussion. She said she was very excited about working with you on this.
Yeah.
And
We
I
definitely want to
should-
accommodate her, but like I told you, I wasn't gonna go talk to Monty until after this meeting,
Right,
or Thermont,
right.
because, I mean, you guys will talk about it and look it over, but nothing's free. Obviously, we get something out of it for doing all this for you. But after that, it really benefits the city, but it's sure gonna draw your traffic in, and that's citywide. And we definitely, on the private end, want to help those guys out too. I mean, we can't do too much, but this is, that's my only concern is I don't, there's a lot of excitement, anybody you talk to about this, like, I don't know where we're at. I haven't talked to him today, but we've already gone through city planning, city attorneys, and submitted the site plans and everything else for Cody.
Right.
So I haven't checked in from there. And then tomorrow night's Thermops deal, which I'm just going for development, not this.
Right.
And like I said, I didn't even talk to Lander until this because
Right.
we wanted to make sure you were who I approached first. And like I said, this town has saved me many times hauling children back and forth.
I think I probably need to talk to the power companies. I haven't had a chance to do that. I was gonna try to do that today. Just I never got out of town hall, ate lunch at 2:30, but it was a busy day. It's we got several other issues with the power company I need to talk to,
Mhm.
see how far we have triple phase. And I fully didn't understand that we'd have to bring triple phase to the site, and I'd have to see what that cost would.
And
would be.
actually, if you guys, I can make it easier than that. If you want to give me the contact information for who your provider is,
Mhm,
I can have our headquarters call and see
mhm,
what's feasible. Takes one more thing off your plate if you like.
mhm.
It's up to
We
you.
could, their estimator's out of town, but
Uh-huh.
there's an engineer, I got his card number that I think can answer those, hopefully have answered those questions for me. But we can see what that cost would be. That would be determining factor for the cost is for why that can be prohibitive. And I'd like to sit down with Fastlane again and make sure we're not competing, not sure we're competing with them.
May I
Please.
state something? I highly advise against using that in any kind of decision that you're allowing competition. You cannot protect any single entity business in their competition in your decisions.
Okay, thank you.
The other part is, if they're going to electric vehicles 10 years from now, it will save the money for the town by having their own charging station when they have their own electric vehicles, instead of having to pay an entity that wants to make a profit.
And just to be noted, I don't know what Wyoming has yet, but Hawaii, California, everywhere, the government's doing a fleet service replacement. And this is where it gets crazy. They are giving any one of these programs money to replace one of their, like, they have a school bus program, they have a fleet program for utility vehicles, emergency vehicles. And that grant gives you a free charger per vehicle and pays to replace, depending on how you qualify, one vehicle. I mean, that's almost $500,000 in just free federal money on top of it. I mean, it's, like I said, it's the infrastructure bill. It's,
Yeah.
I'm not about the politics. I'm just saying, hey, if Wyoming can take all this free money like everyone else, and let's just benefit from it and get done what we can, there's definitely a long-term benefit, but there's more. You've got Washington's Port Authority looking at, now they're taking the boats electric. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's here.
I don't think we should engage in it as a municipality. I feel like this is private enterprise stuff. I've read the stuff from YDOT, as far as YDOT's, just what they publish, things like there's 477 vehicles, EV vehicles registered in the entire state of Wyoming. The 80% match grant. But I feel like it's an opportunity for a private entity. There again, Fastlane keeps coming up. I don't know.
No,
To me,
I'm gonna
I
advise you, right?
believe the pitch ought to go to Fastlane. They're in the business of
Right.
servicing.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't. What I'm telling you is your decision cannot be made on protecting one single private company.
But if we withdrew, if we said, talk to Monica instead of talk to us, we'd be happy to see Fastlane. I mean, just
Yeah,
I actually
Fast lane
did go
too.
talk to Monica. I
Yeah.
did.
See, and I'm coming from a different point of view. As stewards of the town's money, why should we pay somebody to make a profit when we have that same item here that we don't have to make a profit on? And so I'm looking down the road 20 years when the town's going with electric vehicles and saying, hey, we don't have to pay that out of our pocket. You know, what would happen if a town had a bulk station for diesel or gasoline and put it out for bid each year? How much would that save us instead of going across the street to fast lane 3 times a week for the town truck or police cars? Would that save us money as well? That's what I'm looking at, is the financial part for the future. So I'm coming from a completely different point of
Sure.
view.
It's like I said, I think the other side, so I have friends that own Tesla. And they just put it in their house, at their charging station. So part of me thinks if the town went to we have an electric vehicle, we'd put our own little plug over at the shop. I don't know what a plug costs, must be affordable since they do it in their house, but
Well, there's also a difference. You're talking about a level 1 or level 2 charge, which takes, 5 to 10 hours.
sure.
This is a supercharger that's equal to pulling in next door and getting gas and going in and getting some water. And so it is a little different.
I think part of honestly, my issue is the government gives you 80% to build your station. I'm a guy that looks at the numbers and said, what does a station cost versus revenue? I'm all for business, mind you, but there again, there's a part of me that says Shoshoni. If we want to go put our own charges, what does it cost us to do it our own selves versus take government money? It's just a cost comparison.
I mean, I'm glad to give you a bid that way, but
So why
it's
does it
gonna be
say
over
500?
100,000.
So the White Up site says 500,000 per station is what information they give as of May, but no, that's accurate.
Well, local construction cost and energy cost factored in.
Mhm.
So in this, we actually, we maintain, operate, and pay the electricity. So even when you have it, it still doesn't cost the city every time tourists come to use it. It literally just brings people in to spend money.
Correct me if I'm wrong, these charging stations are primarily developed for not the local resident, but the local resident probably have a charging station at home that they get some in the
Right.
future. This is for the traveler that's passing through. Is that
Right, that's why the
correct?
federal funding's there, is because X amount of cities are in fact going to get it. It's which cities are gonna take advantage. And then when it's over, every city's gonna have to buy their own. But, I mean, you can look up Montana DOT or, Idaho right now, and, I mean, Montana's almost at every 50 miles already. I know it's heated in an oil and gas state. I'm not trying to push the politics. I'm just saying, if you could take advantage, because people are going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, I want to clarify what I'm talking about too, real quick. So what I'm trying to say is if you decide as a counselor, you don't want to compete with private entities, that's fine. But what you can't do is say we're going to protect 81 someone. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure,
that's
because
where
I
I'm
guess
getting with that.
the conversation could equally be, if we're gonna talk to Fastlane, why are we talking to RV or talking to Crossroads?
Exactly.
I
So
mean, that's the part of me that says if we're out of it, let them both have their own charging stations or,
yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that we're not talking about one entity that we're trying to prevent competition.
Trying to pick
with.
winners and losers.
Correct.
sure, because you could go, I mean, if you go to Tom's Auto for all that it. I mean, as far as it's a business in town, yeah,
Sure, I just know Fast Lane intends to put one in, so
correct.
that was,
Well, I think it'd be- I think
that's
it'd be
why I
great
mentioned
for
that
them.
anybody.
Yeah, I mean, that, to me, I feel like there's a difference in the federal funding as far as my feeling is Francis Energy makes way more money if the town of Shoshoni does it versus Fastlane does it.
We make how much more money? How?
So if fast lane, if fast lane, it just as the example, fast lane says, we'll take your program over there, we'll take 2 charging stations. The benefit to Francis is not as lucrative as,
Also,
I'm just, I guess it's partially a question.
actually, they're actually more beneficial because there's amenities. Like while you're charging, you can go in and get water or a soft drink or use the bathroom, or you definitely want bathroom facilities wherever these things are going. So no, I mean, they're gonna pull in more traffic on their own, just people driving by. The difference in either is whether a better comparison would be Shoshoni or Thermopolis.
Sure.
Because you're a canyon away. Which one's gonna have it? Because you're within 50 miles. Or that's more what you're looking at to apples, because one's private and one's municipal. So it's a little different.
Also, if the charging station was, say, put at our new town hall, it's in walking distance of fast lane while they're charging. They could walk right down the sidewalk, get a soda and stuff. For these charging stations, that's recommended near a park, near a fast food, something where people can, while it's taking a half hour or so to charge, they can walk on down and do something, walk on back. They could use the restroom facilities, and fast lane could also gain by us having that there,
As the town grows, if you've got a local barber shop or cosmetologist, a lot of people book and do that, or just any activity, but that really is the draw, is it makes people get out, stop and spend money where their car's charging at your local businesses. So that's where it benefits the community rather than if you're talking next door versus the campground. Well, that's private business. And so, but again, they're not owned assets, they're managed assets. So we can go in as PMs and engineers and design it and build it and do these things and manage it in our app, but it's not quite the same thing as municipalities. If that makes sense.
One of the meetings I said at YDOT, set in on with YDOT over these, if memory serves me right, I don't have my notes with me, but that they were looking at 10 years in the future before one of these would be profitable. Just because of the low numbers of electric vehicles traveling through the state and what we have locally in our area. There's not a lot in the whole state, but they anticipate over the next 10 years that electric vehicles be more popular, more across the whole United States, more people. That's why the push is that these stations are where that is, whether we agree with it or not, that's a push from government, is trying to promote electric vehicles and trying to.
Well, and that's the key. You also have to look at, you're talking about Wyoming's a tourism state and summer is a big time for us. So again, you want as many people going this direction to our attractions than rather going around because they have to go to Lander to charge. And of course, they're not going to be registered in the state in the numbers that were quoted earlier because they don't reside in the state. They're not residents, or the people that have second homes here and don't reside here. But it's one draw right now is federal funding is now, as we're watching everything that's happened since the pandemic, and we all know when politics changes, that funding could end. So at this point, once you're funded, you're funded. You're on the books. You're done. It's your money. But once it's somebody else, it's somebody else. And then once they end the program money, they end it. So it's.
Yeah, YDOT states that their goal is to facilitate tourism as EVs become more popular. Tourism is our second largest industry in Wyoming.
And it's really not,
This
if
is
you
good.
even go to a concert, like if your kids want to go to a concert at, say, Red Rocks in Colorado, which is Denver area, everything there has charging stations. And same thing, restaurants all over, even Livingston, Montana, Malta, Montana, look at their population. They have them. Of course, Bozeman, Missoula, Helena, Billings, Big Timber. So there's it's right around the corner. So if you can get it with this funding, it's definitely the way to go while you can. So we just came in and, we're the largest network that's come in and done this. We managed to do an entire state and literally every 50 miles in a little under a year. And so this is my state, this is where I'm from. So it needed to be addressed here because, again, there's multiple ways when you fly in to any airport and gates of Yellowstone and all our parks and resources. So we don't want this part of the state not getting the same attention because we don't have the technology. That makes sense.
Do we want to talk with not only Fastlane, the other business owners like Crossroads to see what they think?
I don't think it's our responsibility. I think
Okay.
that's her responsibility as an employee of Francis to go talk to anybody she wishes.
And like I said, I appreciate, when I met with you, I talked to Monica that day and she was gonna get a hold of Tim, and I'm glad to do that too, but this is kind of it's kind of a little different and kind of where we're going. So
That's my.
that's great leads though. I was so thankful to meet Monica.
Could I
Well,
say
Please,
something?
please do.
Many other states do not have this in the municipal level. It is a private enterprise that owns these facilities. Gas stations, Starbucks even owns some.
Mhm.
The private corporations own it because they typically reap the direct benefit from it.
We have Ben Levenger speaking.
Sorry, yes.
Yes.
And that's if they reap the direct benefit, that should be their cost. That's the way many states have taken this approach. I can probably, out of the 20+ states we're in right now, over 10 of them they are not municipally held. They are privately held.
And that is a contingency on the funding. Say, his project he was looking at earlier, let's say you're at Yellowstone Club or you develop your new annex as a golf course community and you have all these wealthy residents with EVs and you put one in there. The catch is, and while it's wonderful for municipalities, and that's what this program is, you only get funding and it's only no cost to you as long as there's access for all. And that's the difference. So unless the campground is okay with going, okay, we're okay with traffic coming in here and we're gonna pay you to do this and we're gonna do it, that's where the difference in the qualifications come in. Does that make sense as far as profit and business versus municipality? I mean, this is how it helps your community, your community while still giving access to everyone. And some private businesses are not gonna do that.
That's accurate.
Yes.
However, I would quote that a place like Fastlane is open to everybody.
Oh, sure. That's their business is fuel. So that's different. That's why I went to talk to Monica. So just something to chew on.
So you need a motion or what?
Well, do we want to proceed with this? Do we want to look at it some more? Or do we just say we're not interested in it as a municipality? I guess that'd be three options.
I would say not close the door, but I certainly would not be okay with making the decision right
We
now.
need a little more information.
This is the wild, wild west. We all have gas engines still. and
Yeah, I agree. Chance to bring more people to Shoshoni and make us, put us on their map.
When if you're gonna race EVs at your rally, come on.
Yeah, we did have.
Wouldn't it be nice to be able to charge them here?
We did.
That's
have
who won it
5
last year.
EVs at our last speed trials.
We saw them on the highway charging for the generator.
But that's the point.
They broke
Why
their-
would they be charging from a generator when they could charge in
They can bring their
Shoshone?
own. BYOG.
So I do know, yesterday, YDOT was supposed to put out their new program on this. I just at a meeting, well, that was Friday, and that's where I got this information from. There, Monday, they were, well, I didn't check the website, but they were, I'll get that survey there on what they have going on, why they're pushing it. I can provide that. I've given everybody one of these. I should have got it to you sooner. That's my fault. I've been, excuses are like. everybody's got
Smiles,
one.
everybody's got one.
Yeah. Everybody's got one. So I got several. But anyway, but Michelle brought this and talked to me about it. And I seen it was interesting. Always trying to look at ways to bring more people to Shoshoni. And I think I need to spend more time and talk to Monica a little bit, and I know they're fired up about it. I don't know if anybody else is in town. Another place would be Crossroads, right? You said Tom, don't know any, you could, there's a lot of places you could set up, and if there's enough electrical vehicles come through there will be in the future.
And that's just the thing that I mentioned here is, again, like the future profit shares and everything else, that comes directly to the city. Not
I just
another
got
business.
a question.
Yeah.
So this is already 9:30, so I figure I'll
Okay.
go with it. So two-part question. What's the benefit to the town versus the town doing it and a private enterprise doing it? What's that dynamic look like?
I mean, it's always controlled by the town, but say said about business owner, you don't take the grant money and depend on the business and another town gets it. What happens if said business owner ever goes under or
Okay.
they close the business? And now the municipality missed that grant money period, and now you're gonna have to invest $500,000 or more to get the same thing.
Okay, and then the grant does help private entities
There is a grant for
Just
private
not
entities as
to the
well.
extent that the town.
It's just a little different because there's always gonna be a different profit, not for profit.
And then I guess the last part is if the town did it, the town would receive economic benefit directly as profit sharing.
We do offer profit sharing down the line, and that's negotiable. That's if we decided and motions were moved to proceed, then we negotiate
Guess
that.
where I was going with that is if the town has to spend X amount of money to put in three-phase, would the town be able to have a commensurate profit over time to negate
I
that
see.
overall cost? Or
Well,
are we just
it's
out the money and then
usually
you guys? profit?
Base that you guys already have three-phase, because here's the thing, you guys just had a guy, sorry, Ben, is it? For anything he's talking about, to put in a hotel, you would have to have three-phase. Anything to do commercial, there's gotta be three-phase over there to run all those pumps. So it's not, you're just looking at a city-owned chunk of ground with access to three-phase. Because you should already have it. Without it, you couldn't do anything commercial. You can't even run a big air conditioner without three-phase power. That makes sense.
I get what you're saying.
A center pivot.
I don't think it was fast lane that they're gonna build it and go out of business and then that goes with it. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think the town will go under before fast. lane
Brian, I'm
does.
just trying to give you an example because I've heard that. Okay, say it's the,
In this
say-
community specifically.
say it's the RV park then. Let's use that. That's a better example. The RV park puts them in, right? And they're private. And then they sell to somebody and a developer comes in and says, we're just tearing down everything. Again, you're right back in the same boat.
That's
The
all I was just
city
trying to
either
figure
has somebody else come in and do it, or you have that cost.
But how far downstream? We keep saying we get paid, we profit sharing downstream, 10 years downstream.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's what I said at the beginning. Yeah.
That's what the state's predicting. It's.
And yours prediction is the same 10 years,
Oh, easy, 10 years, yeah.
20 years.
No, not 20 years.
My other question is, would this fall under a franchise fee such as electrical and telephone and gas?
We pay the electric used for the
Okay,
chargers.
is this considered a utility? That's my question.
I don't have the answer to that. I would say it's part and parcel with gasoline.
Okay,
So.
so it's a service, okay.
Handled by the state level or the federal level as far as taxation on. things.
They're not taxing it yet.
Yeah,
That's.
But Montana's already got it on the books.
Okay.
That makes.
Their
Yeah, Romney's
legislation
not
is trying to
far.
figure out how they can tax it.
Okay, so that
could be.
Would that be something we look down in the future?
Right.
Okay, as a
And then,
franchise fee.
just another note, when we say commercial, we are not considered, heavy duty commercial or industrial on our ampage rate. We're light commercial. Even if all 4 chargers, superchargers are going at one time. So that's just a note, but yeah, it's, and then on the utility end, it doesn't cost you guys anything. It's, we have an account with the utility company once it's in and we pay the bill there too.
The initial construction, if I remember right, would be 2 charging stations with the ability to add 2 more. So in the future.
Right, right, should the traffic increase. So, and again, there's no, like the hotel as a metaphor earlier of, you know, that you're gonna remodel it in 10, 15 years to stay current. Well,
Okay.
you don't have to worry about that because you're in a lease. We do that. So you're still gonna have it regardless. And then once it's in, all the infrastructure's in and everything else. So if you guys decide that you want to do something else or something changes in the city, that's the city's prerogative on what's best for the city.
Who carries the liability insurance? Suppose something happens to somebody's car, suppose they get electrocuted, suppose.
Well, if it's owned by the city, ultimately, I mean, in this day and age, we're stacked, so.
So if someone is charging on our station and something happens, we're liable versus if they're charging on a private entity.
Right.
But it's not.
I
but
cannot
not you
guarantee
guys.
anything will never happen, but if you look at the design of these things and the engineering, people don't typically get electrocuted.
Sure. I
You
mean,
can sit out there in a rainstorm and same thing, you're not gonna get shocked.
What if it gets damaged? If someone runs it over, do we have to pay to replace it, or does your company pay to replace
It
it?
would be like anything else. If somebody hit one of their pumps, they're gonna call and make a police report and
Insurance company.
insurance covers it.
Whose insurance? Our
The
insurance?
car.
The car that hit it, whoever did the
What if it's a
damage.
hit and run?
Okay,
A lot of those.
next question. Does this need an awning?
What was your question, Bob?
An awning, you
Oh,
know,
okay.
to cover up.
I mean, if you want that as an amenity, you
Okay,
actually
so
could
that's,
offer that. if
I'm
you
just
got
looking at
Added curb
what's
appeal, but
requirements for this, you know.
the 3-phase power.
Well, gas stations have an awning. So I'm wondering, that's where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
We don't get rain here.
You know, you say that, and I just came from Clark where all our power was out because Red Lodge flooded.
Yeah. Well, that's
It
Montana.
washed out everything, so. Careful about that.
And then 3.
Hey, Yellowstone Park's closed.
Oh, yeah, it was crazy. It was the craziest thing ever.
Any more questions from Michelle or?
So basically, you're just asking for land and then 3-phase going up to it.
Correct. And signing a lease
Mhm.
and just kind of explained how it worked. But this is federal and it's more for the community development. The private sector's private. So. And again, you guys are welcome to read over that. And if you have any more questions, I'm glad to come back to the next meeting if you kind of want to chew on what benefits it gives you, but it's because it's such new technology in the West, at least in our areas, this just takes all the risk out for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm not closed the door. I just want to,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So I know like today I read up that Elon Musk made an announcement that he's increasing his production like 25% because of the demand.
Well, if you look, much like I mentioned earlier, Fremont is building a Volkswagen facility, and what Volkswagen has done is they went in partnerships, but that's EV that's coming that Fremont's building. As of a month ago, in Billings, Montana, all the crab crawl electric vehicle Hummers came in. You know, everybody and they pre-sold in 10 minutes. Again, I passed 4 the other day going to Cody from Clark, which is about 50 miles. It's just here. And I think what you're going to see, whether we like it or not, is with fuel prices doing what they're doing, more people are going to do it because it's more efficient. You're just always going to have those people as long as fuel keeps going up the way it does.
So you
Plus,
turn
like
the
I said,
radio on, the heater on.
well, you know, what's really funny is, was it last year or the year before last that Texas actually froze over? And there were articles everywhere, which is what prompted Ford to make their EV forward. They used to just do a a generator in the back of their F-150.
Mhm.
But all the stories broke about people using their Teslas when all of Texas had no power, no heat, and a snowstorm. And guess what? They lasted. And it was fine. And they made it through in Teslas. And then all of a sudden you had Ford building the new EV F-150. So, I mean, there's whatever side you're on, there's pros and cons to each side. You might as well reap the reward. Think of it on the revenue stream of, do you have a ticket quota you write every year?
We do not have quotas.
Oh,
I don't think that's your problem here.
yeah. All right. But it's kind of similar type of thing. It's just one more passive income for the city.
I think, just my opinion, electric cars, as Joel said, that it's coming, but where we're located, people going back and forth through this area, we're right in the central location between Thermopolis up to Cody, here going to Casper, down to Denver, and then coming back this way, going to Jackson. Someone's got to do it. I just don't know if it's the town or if it's private industry. I don't have this.
I think that's the best answer we've heard right there. You're right. The conversation is accurate.
It
It's
needs to
coming.
happen. It needs to happen.
So
Question,
whether
what's
it's
the best?
us,
That's what I was trying to get to.
Correct.
What is the best
right.
one to get it?
And that's what I was trying to ask.
That's
To come back to the council, we're not gonna put a hotel here apparently, but we could put in our own RV park. So where do we say we are gonna put in an RV park, or we're gonna put in an EV station, or we are gonna put in a restaurant versus
and
other people? We're trying to encourage business to come
Yeah.
here and
Well, we want to encourage somebody else to put an RV park in. We don't wanna do
correct,
that.
but it's so as far as us deciding, where do we stand on we're gonna do this versus somebody,
Yeah,
hopefully
'cause
somebody else.
I kind of worry about it maybe closing, the small business owner for doing it,
So someone who, so on the one hand, Ben is saying, let's put in an RV or a camper cabin site over there. Great opportunity for someone to put in charger stations.
Can I make a legal argument here real quick for you guys? Not
Please
argument, but
do.
just a point here. So we've all been going around this whole thing about economic development, giving out land, or not giving out, but at a certain price. Okay. And so we need this land. I am gonna just throw this out here, but her proposal basically falls in this economic development proposal. So now it's up to you guys to decide if you like the plan or not. But if it's only land that she's asking for, not money from the town, this kind of falls in that classification. Because they are
That's
a
why I said
private
it's
business.
community-based, it benefits. the
They're a
community.
private business, asking to throw in, that just came before you with a plan. And they're asking for land, that possibly, I'm understanding there might be this 3-phase, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's just access to utilities, but
Right.
it's 3-phase rather than just your
If that
normal.
access is there, I mean, this is something that she's come before you, and you gotta review and look at. Not saying you have to say yay or nay, just saying you need to look at it in that light.
Well, yeah, I agree. That's where I'm saying I want to just think things through and look at the private end of it and us doing it. And like I said, I'm not even close to closing the window. I just want to process some of
It
this.
could bring people to town.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That would
it's-
spend
Whoever
money
does
in
it, it
town.
will help bring people.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree with that.
absolutely.
Well, and it's gonna help people spend money across the board at all businesses.
No, I agree. I think the whole concept of it is great. I'm just not sure how yet.
Sure, because just take it back to the beginning when Dwayne was here. He's talked about putting an EV
Yes, he
station in
did.
his bar.
That's what I was just telling him.
So, I mean, I think we're in agreement that it's just it's the who. So granted, this is capitalism at its finest. If her plan is better than Dwayne's plan, then maybe that's great or doesn't matter, but
Well, why the federal government, for several reasons, is subsidizing this, if you will, because you're gonna receive, an 80% grant to put this in, because if they.
We actually pay the other 20%
You
as
pay-
well, just
yeah, you-
FYI. It
Yeah,
is
you pay the
economic
other
development.
20, but without that 80%, it's probably not financially feasible to put one of these in Shoshoni, correct? And to provide a service for people traveling through and help promote electric vehicles, which they're trying to do, the federal government is willing to put that money out to do that. If that's sort of a correct characterization.
Mhm.
And it's just like subsidizing, farms, you know.
But again, in a
Hey,
year,
hey,
if the program extends out here to increase your bus or your fleet service, you'll already have the infrastructure in place to take advantage of that grant. Would you turn down a
Well,
free school bus or?
well, there is grants
Utility.
available right now for buses, maybe even. Police
Fleet
cars.
service.
How much is the grant, how much is the grant for a private industry getting it? How much, what's the grant?
Well,
for
it
that?
depends on which way they want to go. So there's several ways they can go.
2 stations.
Say they wanted 2 stations.
Well, first of all, so every different grant has a maximum and a minimum of how many stations. So they can't do less than 4.
Okay.
Period, for any type of funding.
And if they did 4, do you have any idea what it would be?
It depends on what option they
I got you.
choose. Monica did tell me that she had reached out to Tesla and of course got no response, but I mean, they're more focused on corridors and
Riverton.
Mhm. And Jackson. Yep, going right down the corridor.
How long before the grant expires as it's currently written? Is it 4 years like the? ARPA?
That I can't tell you. It's the, you can look it up. It's the,
That's what I was.
it's that new infrastructure bill Biden did. You know, he's done it, same thing with solar energy and roofing and everything else. How long? I have no control over that.
Yeah, no, I was just curious.
I got
I haven't looked, I know ARPA was 4 years. Infrastructure bill, I wanted to say, I remember it being something similar,
Mhm.
because it's gonna take them almost a year just to even roll out the literature on how much is being spent. And then the states have to decide how they're going to take another 6 months to figure out what they're gonna do.
Mhm.
So it's a process. I was just
And
curious.
I think that's where more subcontractors came in, like my company, and just kind of expedited.
Okay, it took a year to get it there, so 4 more years. Yeah, 5 years.
That's
Community
this is
charging
5
grants.
years.
Oh, this one's 5 years. Okay. So
As of February 10th of this year, 5 years. $5 billion over 5 years. The bipartisan infrastructure law.
I think we need to stop and think about this.
Yeah, I
Table
agree.
it for now.
Yeah, because
Come
the
back.
are just clicking and I'm not getting any answer.
Yeah. So that's my motion to table it.
One second.
It's not 10 o'clock yet. We
Table
can't
to
do
the
that.
next regularly scheduled meeting.
Yeah, very good.
Moved by Councilman Zent, second by Councilman Weaver. Any further discussion? None being all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all same. Motion passed.
Hey, thanks.
Thanks a lot for your presentation.
Yeah, it was really good input. Thank you.
almost solved this people.
Police report. Thank you. I'll be brief. Drive safe.
Thanks.
You too.
So just a quick update. We did receive a gifted ambulance. Finally, as that process has been completed. So we now have an ambulance for us. We actually have the vehicle. It was free. Didn't cost us
What is
anything.
it?
It was gifted.
What is it? I have like this organ donor nightmare going through my head.
It's actually a 2007 with 63,000 miles on it. It's pretty much what you see Fremont County driving.
Oh,
Just a few years older. And it's fully outfitted inside, working lights. It needs a new battery. But So we will get that picked up and start the next phase. of this
Where are you gonna
process.
park it?
Oh, probably at your house.
Does that have to plug in like a fire truck does?
I'm sorry. I'm tired after the EV conversation. I thought that was being
Yeah.
facetious.
Does it have to plug in all the time though?
It's a diesel, so
Well, as far as the onboard stuff, like,
no, it runs off. There's a secondary battery system in there. And so that's why it's sat for a while. So it killed the battery.
so the only reason I say that is perhaps you could put it in the fire hall, because we have an empty bay currently.
That would be perfect.
I know that it would.
What about
'Cause
the ambulance barn? Is that being used?
So that's a touchy subject right now at the county. We're
Yeah.
working on that one.
Okay,
I don't,
It should
Right.
be not a brainer.
okay.
right now the bay's empty. In past has not been, if they've kind of been mixed on what they wanted to do with it, but it's that center bay that,
Yeah, they'll give us the permission to do so. That'd be a perfect spot.
like, I don't know. It's just a spot that could, at least in the winter time, would be nice to not.
Right, kill battery and stuff.
Right, scrape windows.
This past year, they parked another county vehicles in there just for the sake of putting in there. They've taken them out for the summertime because they're going to federal fire, but it could be a potential spot.
Yeah, I'll get with the powers that be.
Craig, I'd go straight to Craig. and
Yeah.
just-
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I got a meeting with him anyway here in a week, so. Dispatch stuff. So thank you. I didn't think of that as an option. The other, that's
Yeah.
gonna be more probably mayor's court on getting that worked out. I don't see why not. It's an empty bay. Taxes and everything else. I think we own the property and the domain. Take it from them. I don't have an answer for you. But that's a big win. It took us a while to get here, but we're almost there. So it's been, I know it's been a 2-year project getting from inception to this, but we're almost there. We got the big pieces of the equipment now and everything in my office. I can finally get out of there. As far as the police report goes, we also did receive our canine vehicle. You've probably seen it driving around. We did put some temporary decals on it. And it's running just fine. We did deploy the canine twice so far. which we've-
In the neighborhood
In the
or on the highway?
suburbs of Shoshoni. We did have 3 substance possession of controlled substance encounters this past month, including 2 disorderly conducts and domestic violence. We have had an uptick in juvenile problems. We did have 5 issues with juveniles in the past month. No surprise with school being out. Hopefully that will not increase anymore, but we do have, I keep saying we do have that texting app. So if you have juvenile activity or something weird, something going bump in the night, please let us know where it's going in the time frame so we can at least be aware of some activity and try to not really say a plot graph, but to kind of get a sense of what's going on and what times we can target. Did have a couple more, 2 warrants that were arrested, so that's continuing to be in our contacts with traffic stops with warrants. Hopefully that'll clear up as people get those cleared up after going to jail. We did have 4 medical assists here in Shoshoni. So that again goes back to the ambulance issue. One of them was waiting 45 minutes for an ambulance. So I think that is an issue. 3 citizens assists, 3 red reports, no DUIs, and 1 traffic crash. Our overall traffic, our call volume compared to last year at this time of year is up 1%, which is flat. But if you remember last year, we were up 68% for the year prior. So we're pretty much staying increased levels compared to 2 years ago. Pre-COVID, basically, we're still elevated call volume. That's, and we have that opening for the position that we hope to do interviews in August. Something.
Thank you. Did Public Works leave you any notes?
he did, sorry, I guess he did mention that he did purchase some things that, for hot summer nights, and that we would be reimbursing the town for the cost of that. Spray paint and some things like that. So we will be reimbursing the town for that. That's all I know that he was gonna talk about.
Next executive session on real estate.
Yeah, my questions are good now. I don't have anything on it.
Okay, we. No executive session then. Let's get in our roundtable. Bo, would you like to start?
I don't think I have anything today.
Tammy, would you like to contribute?
I don't have anything.
Mike?
Do you know if Buddy has done anything with the alley over by?
I know we were talking about getting that redone as far as over by the Phillies and Cream rebuilding, getting that expanded out. I believe our last conversation was in the spring and that early spring. And what we were looking at, they were going to redo those this summer. So I don't know where that stands without talking to them. But I'll get back and see where that is.
Buddy's in charge of it though.
He had
That-
communicated with the landowner working out an agreement that we would assist and they would get those. That's all I know without having here, but I will find out how much- where that stands, I should say.
Bob, do you have something?
One had a conversation with the citizen. But he talked about lack of communication. On the street closure for the 3-on-3 tournament. He was not notified of the closure until after the fact. And he was upset about it, saying, count, you're not doing your job because that's my access to my house. You're shutting the street in front of my house. Why? Why didn't you talk to me about it? How would it affect me? I said, you're right. The town should have talked to you, informed you about it. And then instead of after the fact. And person had a valid complaint, I felt, that we did not communicate with him properly.
I talked with them also. I went over there with Tammy and just looked at the whole scenario, and Jordan ended up showing up. And he did, I was like, how can we make a space for him to park? Because, his wife and everything else. And we did get it to where the barriers will go a little further this way. And so he can park, when you make that right turn, he can park right up to his barriers. Basically, he'll be like about from here to the end of the
He
desk
doesn't
from
want
his
to park
entryway.
there now.
Oh, he
He's gonna
doesn't?
Park at the senior citizens,
Okay.
but he's okay with the car show being blocked off for the in front of his house, and okay with the music too, but he just had a.
You're right. And
So he just says one to basketball.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, I'm good
And I
then.
talked to Jordan about it too, and Jordan talked to me and said, we tried to give him multiple
Mhm.
places to park. And he said, basically, we did not want to talk about it or listen, but we just need to work better on communication.
Yes,
That's all
I
I'm
agree
saying.
with that.
I talked to him also, so. And he told me he'd worked out something at the senior center.
The other part is I need to report on WAM. Biggest thing I talked to Senator Nethercott, who's running for state, Secretary of State. She's on the Judicial Committee, and I asked her a question about marijuana and what the state is planning to do about it. And her answer was nothing. She said, probably he said, it could be passed by the House in DC tomorrow, probably make it legal. But it's up to the state. It's not regulated by FDA. And she said she would like to see individual doses of, if you want to have 10 milligrams of marijuana, individual doses packaged, because right now you can buy a gummy worm or gummy bear, whatever you want to eat, that has 10 doses in it, or 100 milligrams of cannabis, and you're expected to cut that to 10 parts.
That's gonna make havoc over Halloween, man.
Yeah. So, one of the things we talked about was what's considered a legal dose? What percentage? Because you can now make concentrate, which is close to 99% pure THC. And she said, Colorado never thought of these problems when we did it. Montana's doing much better than Colorado is. Talk about taxes, probably 30% tax on cannabis at the max. After that, it's going to go black underground again. And you'll never recoup the social cost for having it. Because she said in Colorado, about 7% of the people buy 75% of the cannabis. So they are hard, she said, and the new stuff are coming out with concentrates, you know, can be addicted completely, and it's psychotic. That's how bad it is. And they have retreats for addiction there now. And that was one thing she talked about privately. It's interesting concept.
Yeah, because they're infusing like sodas and beer and everything else with it too, right?
Deodorant,
Deodorant?
toothpaste, you can put it in any product.
Put it next to an EV station at town hall.
Spencer?
I mean,
And that's something we need to look at in the future is our zoning and saying, where do you want this business at? And she said, those are things that the state needs to start planning for now. The towns need to start looking at their ordinances now before it becomes legal.
If they're gonna make it legal, it's gonna even make it harder, because more people are gonna be doing it, in my opinion. So there'll be more people not passing their drug screens. It's already hard enough to find a truck driver, obviously. Mike can probably vouch for that. I think if they're gonna do something like that, they need to look at the technology of it and have it kind of set up like alcohol to where it's not just they're looking back 30 days, but to see if you're high while you're working, or is it something that you did on Saturday on your day off? If they're gonna legalize it, they gotta do something like that.
Those are things that the state needs to come up with. All those things, requirements. And she said, right now, I don't want to do anything from the judicial standpoint because we're still developing all the rules. And she said, we're doing it quietly in the background, but it's going to hit us eventually. And it won't be the state legislators who does it in Wyoming. She said it'll probably be done nationally, quite easily.
So we should zone a donut shop and a Taco Bell next door to the dispensary.
Well, that's
Between them. Put it between them.
when I was visiting my mom in Arizona at that assisted living place she's living in, directly across the street is one of those places where you go in and get those gummy bear things, and there's a drive-through, and it's amazing the line that goes in there, and right beside it is a McDonald's, and they go like this and like this, right into the McDonald's. So, yeah.
The other thing they talked about was the good stuff, the good side of marijuana, the CBD.
Mm.
And it is only now being studied medically, basically. It's good for lymphoma, seizures and all that stuff. That's another part of the legislation they look at is the medical part. And that'll happen sooner in Wyoming than anything else. But that was a conversation I had, went to a couple meetings, and it was one of the best ones.
Good information. Did you share a gummy with her?
I didn't have any gummies.
Should have bag of Doritos.
Yeah, you can put it on anything.
Any more?
That's about
I'll
it.
just touch a little bit on housing. Ben talked about box housing, with housing in, I just went to in Cheyenne. They got diagrams talking about box housing. It's one of the things, I was actually chosen to be on a panel down there for Wham, along with the representative from Cheyenne, one from Sheridan, one from Jackson, and then of course Shoshoni. And we talked about, housing is a statewide issue. It's affecting municipalities of all sizes. Trying to figure out how to get around that. But they're talking the box housing, all sorts of options. Was brought up that we talked with rural development, had a meeting with the new director, talking about options. There is still some real low interest loans available for us to help develop our property. Herb's Acres, stuff like that, and our 40 acres before that were in the regular housing. They got multiple options, so we're gonna continue to work on. But that covers the high notes as late as it is. That's I thought Wham convention was real good. Just took me away from town for 4 days. I think that's all, anything really important I got to say. Geez, we're too late. I was trying to beat 10 o'clock. But anyway, can I have a motion to adjourn if nobody has anything else for our time? Moved by Councilman Demick to adjourn, second by Councilman Weaver. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same. 10:03. Thank you.
Marshall.